Let's go.
Let's go for it!
To pay for your pizza, sir.
What's the cheese memo for?
Are you recording? We are on the Pizza Podcast. We got a really special guest today. We got Joe Riggio from Pizza Suprema, one of the most underrated slices, in my opinion, in New York City. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
How are you, Nino? It's nice to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
So
I just want to state for the record that I'm very proud of you, by the way. I know you for a long time, Nino, and you know what? I underestimated you, and I underestimated your brilliance. You're really, really a smart guy, and I'm really proud of you. You know, and I don't mean that in a condescending way. I just You've shocked us all. You're like so smart. You know,
I really appreciate that, Joe. Yeah, I mean, you've been amazing. Do you remember the first time we met?
Shit, yeah, of course I remember
tell
you.
me,
I
tell
wanted
me
to get
about
rid
that,
of you. I thought you like. I said, this kid's trying to steal my recipe. How do I get rid of this guy? You know,
what was he? I remember at one point, like I vaguely remember it because it was so long ago, but I don't know if it was you or like one of your managers, but somebody brought me down to your place to shoot a video of spinning. I was throwing.
That's
pizza
right. That's right.
Outside of your place.
We were doing that. Yep. We were getting a little attention, and you came down, and you were like like the world champion pizza tosser, dough tosser.
Right.
And you helped us out that day. You told me where to buy the pizza doughs that were the fake pizza doughs that you throw up in the air.
Yeah, the throw doughs.
And we bought a few of them, and then you came down and helped us. And it was funny because I thought you were very talented, yet I thought you were at the time mismanaging your life, and
You're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
I was mismanaging my life. I was
jumping turnstiles and stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was at that time. I was, like a 21-year-old knucklehead kid.
Oh yeah, and it was funny because I didn't really, and I know you now, and I didn't see any of this in you. Like I didn't see this guy who's got all these amazing interests and like really pursues the details of things. And I didn't see that at the time. I mean, you kind of blindsided me here.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, brother. It means a lot. It means a lot. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about so when did Pizza Suprema originally start? Let's start with that.
So that started up in 1964. This is way before. This is a few years before Madison Square Garden opened up.
Right.
But he knew it was coming, and it really wasn't a very nice area back in. I mean, this is before I was born, so So yeah, you got me.
Wait, hold on. No, I'm a little loud.
Oh,
Yeah,
Like
I'm a little
really
loud too.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you kept on saying.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, and it was a very different area than it is now. In those days, before I was born. So, and he had eventually RCA opened up around the corner, or it was opened up already, and that's really where now it wasn't opened up. It opened up afterwards, and that's really where he made his money because we didn't get a lot of business at the time from Madison Square Garden when it finally opened up. Because the main entrances were on 7th Avenue.
Right.
And there was no internet. You couldn't find the best pizza, look around. There was no reviews and anything like that. And so people were going to Barrows, and that was more conveniently located. And I remember even as a kid, I mean, I don't know if Sbarro's was open at the time, but I remember being a kid and seeing people go to Sbarro's. Mm-hmm. And I tried the pizza at Sbarro's, and I thought we were better.
Oh, yeah. There used to be one like...
It's still there. I mean, COVID, I got the best of them recently, but I know...
You're talking about the one on 42nd?
No, the one on 7th Avenue right across the street from Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right in the corner
right
there.
next to the hotels.
And
right
I used to
next
see them. We just like, I'd go, wow, this place is jamming. And they, I didn't think the pizza was that good.
Right.
But,
obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not bad, but I didn't think it was as good as ours. Yeah.
So back then, like what were you guys serving out of there? Like what do you first remember? Was it like...
All right, when I was a little boy, all we served was the round cheese slice, plain only. That's it.
No pepperoni.
No pepperoni.
No
You wanted
sausage.
pepperoni, you couldn't get it. You had to get a whole pie.
Okay.
Okay, and it was like, and the toppings were like very simple. Like if you look at the box of pizza, and it's got the toppings on, it's got anchovy, it's got the sausage.
Right.
Like there's only like a few of them. You know, and it doesn't
Yeah.
really list the full toppings that we all really have today. You know, maybe I think there's an other section now, but like. Years ago, there was only a few toppings. You had sausage, peppers, pepperoni, anchovies, extra cheese, and mushroom, right? And onions.
Right.
And that was it. You know what I mean? There wasn't any spinach, broccoli. You know, today we're putting burrata, fig.
Yeah.
You know,
All that stuff.
There's none of that going back.
So when
Yeah.
were most people ordering slices, or was there a
That's
lot
it.
of pies too?
No, it was mostly a slice place. It was
Mostly slice. You come in, you get a plain slice.
It was a very serious slice shop. We were very busy back in the early 70s. My father would explain. No, excuse me. The late 60s, people were trying to avoid the Vietnam War in the early 70s.
Okay.
Up until the oil embargo hit. That's when like things went sour. But prior to then, we had Dad said to me we would go through a lot of pies every break that the students had around the corner because everybody was avoiding the Vietnam War, so they were going like even the less like it was a trade school. So if you weren't scholastically inclined, you went to a trade school, you know, and they learned to trade, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that, and they were extremely busy. Very, very, very busy. Doing plain cheese pizza, nothing else. That was
Right.
it. No square, no calzone. That was it.
So you're in Midtown. Are you going into the pizzeria where your father, like as a kid, or
Okay, as a 10-year-old kid, all right, I'll never forget the day. I always wanted to go to the pizzeria with my dad because I hardly saw my dad. My dad used to work 6-7 days a week, and I would see him sometimes. Sometimes he'd take a day off. And at the end of the night, I would say to him, Dad, I'll see you next week. And my mother would start to cry because she realized her reality was so sad because we used to go to school early and we didn't see our father. And by the time he came home from work, we were sleeping already. So I would say, I'll see you next week, Dad. And my dad would look and say, that's right, I'll see you next week. And my mom would just get all emotional about it, you know, and it bothered her. But that was reality for us, you know.
did you have did she have any brothers or sisters or anything like that
No.
that would come out? Really?
No, my mother was alone here. My mother only had her sister-in-laws, and those are very different than your sisters. Although she didn't have her own sisters. I'll just say.
Does the sisters-in-laws come over at all?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. You know.
Was she from the other side?
My mom was from Italy.
Yeah, from where?
My mom was from Sicily.
Okay.
At the time, my father married. He went to a small town, and he fell in love, and he married.
Wait, he went back from
so my
America.
father-
All right, yeah.
my
Let's
father
unpack this.
Okay, so let's go back to my grandfather first.
Okay.
So my grandfather came here in 1904.
All right.
All right. He was a coal miner, and he went to Illinois first. And then somehow he transferred over and came to New York. He was like one of the few, because most of the people from that town went to Illinois. You know, there's very few from the town we come from that came to New York.
Yeah.
He happened to come to New York. And he had 4 girls at the time.
Okay.
And he saw things were getting bad. Like at one point, he brought the family here. Like he brought he had a daughter. Like some of my aunts were born here. I mean, you wouldn't think it because they don't even speak English. You know, I mean, the ones that were born here particularly don't speak so poorly. You know, and then at one point he went back to Italy because he saw World War II come. Oh, no, excuse me. He saw the Depression, and he brought him back to Italy. Okay, and when he was in Italy. Prior to World War II, he was coming back. He was like sending money and sending food and stuff prior to World War II. Then when World War II broke out, prior to World War II, my grandmother was pregnant with my father.
All right.
Okay, and then my grandfather came back to America. And as you know, during World War II, the Italians and the Americans at one point became enemies. And so there was no correspondence between my grandfather and my grandmother. So my grandfather couldn't even send money, couldn't send couldn't send packs of flour or whatever it was that he was previously doing. He couldn't do it anymore. So my grandmother suffered. So my father was born after 4 girls. They were trying for the boy, basically. It was an agrarian agricultural society. They were looking for the boy, you know, and my father came. So now it wasn't until 9 years later, for the very first time in 1946, that my father, because my dad was born in 1937.
In Italy.
In Italy. Okay. With my grandmother's in Italy with 4 girls and a boy, and my grandfather's here in America.
They can't.
And they can't communicate because they're enemies. American, you know, he can't provide for his family essentially, and they saw some really bad times in Italy because of that. And then finally, when the war was over, they came here in 1946, and my father met his father for the first time at the age of 9.
Wow.
Okay, so that's a, you know, I think it's a very interesting story. Unfortunately, he never really established a good relationship with his father because of that, and that's really sad, I think, you know. But like when people will ask me, they'll say, you know, are you first generation? Are you I'm really first generation Italian American.
You are, yeah.
You know, because although my grandfather came here, my father, you know, was born there too. So, you know, I speak Italian.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you grew up with it in the house.
I grew up with my mother speaking Italian.
Your mother and father were born in Italy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Both of them. You know, so. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
so he comes over here. He's 9 years old. You know anything about like his younger life at all?
So basically, they come here, and they first wind up. I think they wind up in near Carroll Gardens, right there.
Okay.
Like the borderline of Red Hook, where there's St. Mary by the Sea. There's this little around the corner from St. Mary. There's this little alleyway. It's like it almost looks like it was built for small people.
Right.
You know, like you go down in this. I forget the name of it right now. And Dennett Place.
Okay.
Dennett Place, right around the corner from St. Mary by the Sea, right off. You know, go to Court Street. And you go right over there, Dennett Place, and they lived there for a very short amount of time, and then they wound up moving to Bushwick. Okay, and
which is where we are now, for those who don't know.
But he always told the story about him being a little boy and going to a Catholic school, and the nun rejecting him. He always told that story.
Rejecting.
Yeah, he felt rejected by a nun.
Okay,
and he felt like, you know, he was a scrawny, dark little boy, and she looked like, and she gave him a look like she was grossed out by him. And the other nun looked at her, that nun that was giving that look, and understood that my father understood that, even though he didn't speak the language. And the nun that understood his pain basically coddled him, said, "Come over here. This is a smart boy. This is a special boy," and made him feel good and welcome, you know, at that moment. So he always told that one story. And he also was telling the story about when he mispronounced Maryland because it looked like Maryland.
Ah, yeah.
Because I mean, I think that's very, you know, I think it's
an honest mistake.
Yeah, like Greenwich looks like Greenwich.
Yeah, for sure. If English isn't your first language and you're saying Maryland,
like Greenwich to me, it still looks like Greenwich. You know,
I mean, to me that means you understand the phonetics, all right? But there's just weird phonetics in English.
There's very weird phonetics. So he remembered, like he always talked about little things like that. And he felt, you know, the language thing. But you know, my father eventually mastered the English language to a point where my dad's vocabulary was more extensive than mine.
Wow.
And he would say to me, it was funny because my father was an avid reader, loved to read.
Really?
Yeah. When he had nothing to do, he read the encyclopedia.
It's got to be rare for like an Italian immigrant from like a little town poor.
You know what? My father was kind of a nerd. Like my son takes after my dad. Like it's okay to say nerd today. Right?
Yeah. Of
so
course.
like, no, I mean it is because but when I was growing up, it wasn't. You know, like you say nerd, it was like I was a put down. But today nerd is like Bill Gates. We got some amazing nerds. You know.
Yeah, that's who the girls want nerds.
Yeah, exactly. and I don't blame
That's a hot thing.
I don't blame him. You know. So my dad was kind of a nerd. He was a smart guy. He loved school. He wanted to be a doctor. They didn't have the money to go to medical school, you know. His friends were doctors, and my dad was a really smart, smart young man, but he happened to be brought up during a time, and his family got caught during the war and messed him up.
So how does he get into the pizza business? Do you have any idea?
Sure, I know exactly how. Okay, so my uncle Pellegrino, who's his real name, Pellegrino Valente, okay, started the pizza business in our family, and they opened up a pizzeria on Fifth Avenue, across the street from Near Guard Pharmacy. Remember where Near Guard is? Like on 12th Street down over there. It's still there. Near Guard Pharmacy. It's like the only one that you see. It was the only one. This is before CVS's in Brooklyn came.
Right.
Okay. You went because there's
over like near Carroll Gardens, like Fifth Avenue.
24-hour pharmacy in all of Brooklyn years ago, and you had to go down to Near Guard.
Okay.
Years ago, it was across the street, like on 12th Street. It's still there. It's still there, and they had a pizza place across the street from there, and they did really, really well. Pellegrino. Well, excuse me. Before there, they opened up together with my uncle Vinny on 18th Avenue, but it's not the same location that J&V is now, which is on 64th Street. They opened up at another location, and then they were partners. That partnership broke up, and then they went to Valenti's on 12th Street and 5th Avenue. Okay. So there was J&V, my uncle Vinny.
Oh, your Uncle Vinny is J&V.
Is J&V, yeah. My Uncle Vinny was J&V.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, my Uncle Vinny's through marriage, though. Uncle Vinny was married to my Aunt Rosalie, my father's sister.
Okay.
Okay.
That was one of the first pizzerias in all New York, like slice joints.
One of the first slice places in New York City. And then you had what do you call it? And so Pellegrino was the one who started it, the pizza, though. Okay, it wasn't Uncle Vinny that started pizza. It was Uncle Pellegrino, Uncle Pino, who had the idea for pizza because he was living here in Bushwick. I was going to say they moved to Bushwick eventually, and they lived on 76 George Street in Bushwick. And at one point, the aunts got married because they got married young. They were like, my oldest aunt was 15 when she got married. She met Pellegrino, and it was quite natural. You know, I mean, they weren't going to school. What are they waiting for?
Yeah, sure.
You're mature. You're developed.
That's it.
Let's go.
Go
it's
get
time
married.
for you to go.
So now they got the place on. All right, so J&V, and then
now Pellegrino saw when he was living in Bushwick, there was a pizza place opened up, and across the street from wherever they were living. Okay, I told you that my father lived at 76 George Street, but they wound up moving nearby. Like most Italians, they were very tribal. They lived nearby, And so he saw this. He lived across the street from a pizza place, and he saw this business, like the tremendous business that they were doing. And in those days, you didn't even have pizza boxes. You stapled.
The paper onto the cardboard thing.
And that was it. And that's how they took them out.
Yeah,
and it was and he would see the tremendous business, and he said, "This is what we got to do. Right. This is what we got to do. We got to open up one of these." And they did, and he got together with my uncle Vinny, Vincenzo, Di Grazia, and they opened up on 18th Avenue, not where the J&V is located today. It was like a
different location, but same thing
on 18th Avenue, like a few blocks down, and eventually that partnership split up, and he went with someone else, and then Pellegrino went to 12th Street. And then my dad learned. My dad was a young man. My dad loved education, loved learning, loved schooling. He really didn't want that. He didn't want the pizza. He wanted something, quote unquote, better, what was believed to be better at the time.
Sure.
And so he tried different jobs, and he started working as a messenger for Western Union, and he remembers after working for a whole week, he got his paycheck and he bought himself a new pair of shoes because all the walking he did, he made a hole in his shoes, or whatever it was. And he just realized that basically when you're living in that corporate type of environment, that he realized that, you were just making money for them. You weren't going to be making money for yourself. That's how he felt, at least, I
mean, he's not wrong, I don't think.
I don't think he is. And you know what? Climbing the corporate ladder, the view's always the same. You're always looking up someone else's ass. No matter how high you climb, it just seems like, you're never really at the top. And that's my experience. But so at some point, he joined with my uncles to learn how to make the pizza.
And this is over the Carroll Gardens, Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, well,
thing?
he learned a little bit. He learned a little bit from my uncle Vinny,
At
and then
J&B.
from he didn't stay very long, and then he went and opened up his first pizza place, which was it's still there. It's called Elegante's Pizza in Bay Ridge.
Okay. And that was
And the
Vinny's
guys
first
who own
place?
that, I just want to the guys currently own that. Are really
Okay.
wonderful people.
All right.
And I actually go there from time to time, and I talk to them and tell them the story. And I actually ate pizza there with my son. I explained to him this is where Grandpa owned, his first pizza place. This was Grandpa's first.
Oh,
pizza
get out of here.
Yeah, and we had pizza there, and the guys are just so warm and welcoming when I talk to them about that.
Nice. So now he's
He
learning
opens
from
up his pizza
J&B's.
place.
He's learning from the other place.
Right.
And now does he go right into, or
Yeah,
he opens
goes
up
into
Elegante?
business and he gets a partner.
Okay.
And it was a partnership from hell. It was really bad.
It happens.
Yeah, and he had a bad partner, and things really didn't work out for him there at that place. And he went to go marry my mom in Italy and came back, and the guy says, "Hey, we made no money during this time." Gave
Wow.
him no money. He's like, he left like a few months or whatever to go get married. He came back, and it was just a good excuse. Like sometimes they say, when you're going through something, it's the worst thing that ever happened to you, but then you realize it's really a blessing. And it was truly a blessing because it precipitated the breakup. And it forced him to move on. And he moved on, and he went and opened up a pizza shop. And of course, the recipe's developing. His pizza's changing. It changes by way of pizza men who come along and say, I've got a better idea for you. And he tries it, and he likes it, or he doesn't like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it evolves.
Right.
It's all trial and error.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I mean I've only recently learned this, but
Yeah.
it's like the history, at least from like the sliced pizza perspective, but I mean really in general, there was no real recipes, and these guys that were getting into the business, they weren't trained cooks or trained pizzaiolos from Italy in any
they
way.
weren't. They just figured it out.
They were most of the time. I don't know that movie, that documentary that we watched years ago. It's the Pizza, the American Dream, or
Yeah, that
Pizza
was a
Shop,
great
the
movie.
American
I
Dream.
love that, yeah.
Tony Osso, check it
Yeah.
out, guys, if you've never seen it.
It's a great movie, yeah.
It kind of shows their whole history, and these guys, Tony Osso's father, they came from like dirt in Calabria, immigrated over here,
Right.
learned the trade over here.
Right.
I actually, I got a buddy of mine, JP, he's a Neapolitan pizza guy, or JC, I mean. He's a Neapolitan pizza guy. He's boys with like Michael D'Amelio, who's on the Dream Team, on the Caputo thing and everything.
Right.
But this kid's born and raised in Naples, or Campania somewhere, I don't know exactly, but he competes in the championships. He's doing the Neapolitan slap. He speaks English, but like not so well. And I saw a video of him. His mother was at his place. He had opened, I think, in Texas or something, and she's making a pizza, right?
Right.
And she's stretching like me and you.
Right. Wow.
And I go, I look
Really?
at that and I go, I call him up. I go, JC, where your mother learned how to make pizza in New York or in America? And he's like, how you know that? I was like, because I just watched her make pizza. He's like, yeah, she used to live here in the 1960s and 70s and then moved back in, the 75, but she learned here.
how to make pizza.
Yeah, because if you see him
Right.
even make New York pizza, he still does the
The old
Napolitan
Italian way.
way. Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
tell that you can't make. Listen, the Napolitans. When I'm asking for a pizza man, I go New York style.
You have
I say,
to.
I make up pizzas. When I hear that, I go, they don't know how to make the pizza. They
Not
don't know how to
well.
make-
It's
not
a
New
different
York
thing.
style. It's completely
Yeah.
different style.
It's
and they
a
don't know how to
different
do it.
motion. It's a different
motion, and the
way of
dough's not going to be
stretching.
worked right.
Yeah.
They do the edge will be too thick, and the middle will be too thin, and that's no good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. I mean, that's I know we've definitely talked about this before, but I mean, one of the major things that I'm seeing these days is like a lot of spots are opening now where these kind of, I don't know, like hipster type of dudes that are smart. They're smart
Yeah.
guys.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
college educated. I think they put a lot of passion and they read a lot. They have like the knowledge of, a lot of them will learn about fermentation. They will learn all these things that like kind of the guys that taught me like didn't really know. But I see a lot of them where they're kind of they're self-taught, and they never took the time to just be like, let me go to like New Jersey or New York or Connecticut or Long Island and learn from a guy. And it shows.
Time.
It's like, wow, you can make one really great pizza, but if you get in the weeds with 50 tickets, like that pizza looks different.
Absolutely, because the way you and I grew up, and the way I grew up in the pizza business, and I learned the nuances of pizza that make you better. Okay,
Right.
so for example, let's say you happen to have a dough that's a little crusty, because it was exposed to
Got
too
skin,
much air. So now you got to learn how to bring that crust in. Okay, like that's one of the things like I'll see a new pizza man doesn't know how to do. Like,
Right.
okay, so like when they, grind the mozzarella, it's not thick enough. You have to have that grind. That grind has to be thick, right? So like, you're not going to get taught this in a book. A book's not going to teach you that.
No, definitely not.
Or the way you handle even a gas oven. The way you move the pizza and turn it in the oven. All these small little things, are going to affect the outcome. And it's like that with any craft.
Right.
If you don't know the nuances, the small nuances of that craft, then you're just gonna miss. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're gonna swing and you're gonna miss, and in some very big ways. So I mean, the Italian Americans popularized pizza, and so they really, I have to say, Italian Americans are really more responsible are more responsible for pizza than the Italians themselves.
I think that argument could 100% be made. Like, if we really look at the history and look at the popularization and look how it spread,
No doubt.
It spread here way before it spread there.
Absolutely, because the movies helped us spread it. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so my father, I'll give you an example to prove that. When my father went to Italy to get married to my mom, my great-grandmother turned around and she looked at him in Italian. She says, "So, what do you do for work?" Right? Or like suspicious of this guy.
I make pizza.
This Americano coming here, gonna take my granddaughter.
Right.
And so he looked at her. He says, "Io faccio la pizza. I own a pizza place. I own a pizzeria."
What's up, pizza?
She says, "What's pizza?"
Yeah.
My great grandmother didn't even know where pizza was.
Right.
Okay. That's how unpopular. In fact, there wasn't even a pizzeria in the town. Where we came from. Okay.
I've been doing a lot of research on this recently, and you would be like, you didn't have. I mean, there was only a couple pizzerias even in Napoli,
right?
And then after the war, you get more, right? After
Absolutely.
World War II, so now you're in the 1950s and 60s.
And
right?
pizza's exploding in America.
Pizza's exploding in America. It's in the movies.
And all these Italian Americans are doing
coming back with money.
With money.
Yeah.
And they're getting all
like,
pissed
whoa,
off.
what's going
on? You got money. We got our pizza. And they reclaimed it as their own.
Yeah.
Okay. So
imagine back then, too. You got the lira.
Oh, yeah.
You come back with American money back then. Even in the 90s, you go back with American money. It was great.
They used to, it's funny because like there's a different sense of humor. I remember the young boys, like Americans are more genuine. So I was a young American boy going to Italy, and the Italian guy would look over to me and go, "Did you bring any dollars with you, huh?" Did you bring like an Italian. "Mi portaste dollari? Did you bring any?" They didn't want the chocolates anymore that we used to bring, the gums. They wanted the dollars.
Yeah.
And I would look at them like to say, that's kind of weird. Like nobody in America ever asked me for my dollars. But things weren't so good there.
Right.
I mean, they were living, in a different. We were in a capitalist society, and I'm not gonna get there.
Yeah.
But that's what was going on, and it was just a weird. It's weird because we are the ones who popularized pizza.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. No, it's 100% right. Like I always get in trouble. All my Zippoloni friends, they always get mad at me because I always say, yo, pizza was invented in Napoli, but we perfected it in New York City.
Completely, and you know what? They get so mad.
They get mad.
But it's the truth, and they don't want to hear that.
I've had great Neapolitan pizzas that I could write home about, but the vast majority of them, they're soggy. You know what they tell you? They say it's wet on the bottom. It's supposed to be like that. It's not okay. Whatever.
No, it's not supposed to be like.
That's what they do.
You know what the bottom line is? They're using a different flour and different oven, and we're using. we like that char on the bottom of a nice New York style pizza's got to have a nice char on the bottom,
crispy, soft in the middle.
Correct. Don't give me a soggy pizza. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you can't cook it right because of your flour, your oven.
I remember a lot of these, when the wood-fired ovens really only like started kind of coming to New York. Like I was there in the beginning of it. It was like, I want to say like 2004, 2005, they started coming up.
Let me tell you something. I'm glad you brought this up, okay?
Yeah.
Because the whole wood-fired oven, okay, though the wood-fired oven, the coal-fired oven, they went out of vogue, had nothing to do with environmentalism. Nothing.
Right.
People think, it had to. They went out of vogue because the gas oven was considered a superior oven.
100%.
And it replaced them because it was cleaner, your pizza cooked more evenly, and the recovery time on the oven. So in other words, you could keep throwing pizza after pizza after pizza in there, and that oven could handle it. All right.
Right.
And I'm not a spokesman for Baker's Pride or anything like that, but I'm going to tell you, I was at the New York Wine and Food Festival. Okay. And I was the only one, because I was the only one with the gas oven. Okay, everybody else was using the wood-fired ovens and everything, and everybody's pizzas were coming out white. Okay, and there were a lot of people at that festival. I used this little gas oven that they gave me, that Baker's Pride provided. All right, they ran a gas line for me. How sweet, right? Off the pier, and that oven cranked, and that oven did great. And it had a tremendous recuperation. Like it just recuperated. As soon as you stuck a pie in, you could put another pie right on top, and it would handle it. It was just, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. We gotta I don't know if we should pull up this video. So I got this video of that my friend Gaetano sent me. And it's on Brooklyn Pizza Crew. It's like listed under the it's like the history of pizza in 1963 or something like that. And what it is it's a corporate video from this guy Frank Mastro, who Bari, right? Bari ovens on the Bowery.
Barry, yeah.
Okay, so Bari
I have a Barry oven.
Used to be Mastro.
Actually, two of them I got, yeah.
Bari, when it first opened, I believe in 1958 or 1959, it was called Mastro's, right? And because this guy, Frank Mastro, and I had no idea about this history. This guy, Frank Mastro, invented the dough retarder, the gas oven, he called up Blodgett. He said, I got to invent
When did he invent that?
I think it was 58. We'll pull up the video.
Because the
video's from like 61.
That's great.
And what it explains is it's a corporate video designed to show people, like, it's not like a commercial. It's a corporate, like, 1950s. We're gonna pull it up. Brady's gonna find it. But the problem is coal ovens back then. First of all, if you go to like Lombardi's and all these other, a lot of these spots, the coal ovens that were old bread ovens. Like some of them were built underground, and they were like, it was crazy. It's built into the wall. Now, the other coal ovens that they had, they were huge. It was a huge expense. So when this guy, Frank Mastro, who no one knows this guy's name today, because Bari, who Mr. Bari is a really, really good friend of mine, Frank. His father, there's like this story where I think he was the first Italian-American, like, legit millionaire, his father, right? His father invented the electric cheese grater, right?
Wow.
And his father was also he had something to do with radio. Yeah, he's got it pulled up over here. But let me finish this about Frank. So Frank, his father, they used to give the electric cheese graters, they would lease them to all the pork stores and all the shops, all the Italian shops.
Yeah.
And then his
in the 50s.
Bro, no, this is in the early 1900s.
1900s.
Like 1910 or whatever. This is Frank's father.
Okay.
So Frank's father, his mother, Frank's mother used to go around and they would collect $30, $20, whatever it was, a week. Because nobody could afford how much it cost. But then they would take that money in like perpetuity, and it made them wealthy. But now Frank needed his own thing
for inflation. That's so funny.
I mean, I don't think the money ever. I think they kept that collected forever. But then Frank needed his own thing. So he saw this guy, Frank Mastro, presented by Frank Mastro Incorporated, which was in the same exact location as where Bowery is today. And Frank had the whole 240
in the Bowery?
240 Bowery, the same exact building, same exact
Can
location.
I tell you a quick story about that before I go there? I remember going to the Bowery with my father when I was a little boy. Now, everybody knows the Bowery as this cool little spot, right? It's kind of chic now, and people hang out there.
Restaurant supply
Okay,
spot.
so I was a little boy, and my dad would leave me in the car. You know, like when you think of like Sebastian Maniscalco and like how your father treated you was, you know, like okay. So I was in the car, and then basically I was in the car so we wouldn't get a ticket. You understand? And he'd say, keep the doors locked, so you push down the things, you know. And I remember the place was ridden with like homeless people.
Oh yeah,
back then. And I remember this. I was scared, so scared, because this one homeless guy, who's like looking at me with these completely drunk eyes, you know. And I'm sitting outside. I remember sitting outside the Barry, okay,
yeah,
and being in that car, in that hot car, okay, in the summertime, and this guy who's got like piss all over him is coming at me, looking at me, and I'm scared out of my wits. Now, he was a homeless guy. Probably wasn't going to do anything. Probably too weak to do anything to begin with. And he's going like this to me, and I'm frightened.
With the
just waving
clean.
at me. He's kind of waving at me because he thinks I'm a little boy and I'm kind of cute. You know, I'm in the car.
Right.
You know, and I couldn't wait for my father to come out. But like when I hear the Bowery and like and stuff, I still get the creeps.
I mean, they still got a bunch of homeless shelters over there, but yeah. So Frank, he had the whole place set up because nobody would believe that a gas oven could do what it did.
Right.
So what he did was in the same location, 240 Bowery, he invented the dough retarder, like the dough fridge that we know today with the marble top.
Yeah.
He invented the pizza cans that we put the pizza dough in. And then he invented this gas oven, and he had the whole shop set up as like you could go in, they would make the dough for you, and you could work it like it was a real pizzeria, but it was a showroom. So it's like, make a couple pies.
So they had like, so that's really interesting.
You'd go in and you'd make pies. So like a pizza guy would be like, here's how to make the pies, and they would train people how to do it and do everything. So this shows them. The guy who sent me this video originally, Gaetano, his father they did the Queens World Fair. Right. And they set up a whole makeshift pizzeria with all of his equipment, and they were making pizza. And his father was one of the pizza makers. But, let's play this. Let's pull it out full screen.
So
let's
funny.
just, anybody that, and this is on YouTube, if you guys are listening to this, like just fast forward or whatever. But let's watch it. We're going to watch this thing.
Let's watch it real quick. Go ahead. That's cool.
We're going to fast forward a little bit through it. This is on Brooklyn Pizza Crew. You guys can find it on our YouTube channel.
When you refer to the Bowery, let's say,
This
I'll
is
tell
a
you later.
pavilion of pleasure, a palace of glass and metal erected at the New York World's Fair to introduce the pizza to citizens of this and other nations who never yet have tasted a succulent mouthful. The popularity of the pizza.
So this is
soon turned an
1964
exhibit
World's
into
Fair.
the most popular quick service restaurant on
Father
the
always
fairgrounds.
talked about it.
A day's baking of 17-inch pies, placed edge to edge,
17
would
inch, not
extend
18.
more than a mile. No matter what part of the world the pizza eater comes from, the reaction to its unique taste is always the same. Complete satisfaction and unadulterated enjoyment.
That's great.
Watching pizza eaters at Mastro's
Now you hear it
Pavilion
beeping and
makes it
everything.
easy to
This is a
understand why the
corporate
pizza
video from.
threatens to
Imagine you're in the
supplant hot
'60s. You got to
dog
make an
and the
independent
hamburger
video. This
as
is
a
how
favorite
it was.
American food in many parts of the country.
It's funny, it's 17
Americans
inch too.
have always
Yeah.
fancied
Because
Italian food.
My
The
ovens
story goes
probably
that
would
an
prefer a
inspired
17
Italian
inch.
Look, and they're
chef
showing the
named
history of
ran the
Testa,
first pizzeria
the guy
in
who invented the
16th century
margarita.
in
That's like a little display.
King Ferdinand, who ruled Naples at the time, happened to pass Testa's shop and was fascinated by the pungent odor that wafted into the street. He entered, tried one piece of pizza, and promptly invited Testa to bake pizza for the entire court. Hundreds of thousands of Italian immigrants crowding into New York at the turn of the century brought the pizza with them. It was Frank Mastro who was destined to bring the pizza out of the Italian settlements in New York and spread its aroma to other neighborhoods. Born in Italy, he came to this country in 1910. After serving in World War I, he sought and quickly found the opportunities America offers all men of intelligence and energy. From 1926 to 1946,
That's 240 Bowery. Look,
Frank
240.
Mastro
That's
pioneered
amazing.
the pizza through a family-owned restaurant equipment business, supplying equipment to the few pizzerias that existed in New York City at the time. What had prevented the pizza from achieving the popularity Frank Mastro knew it deserved was the cumbersome coal-fired oven in which it had to be baked. It took hours to bring the oven up to the desired high temperature, and the heat was partially dissipated every time the oven door was opened. Frank Mastro reasoned that a gas-fired oven would bake evenly, could be brought to proper temperature quickly, and would maintain that temperature no matter how often the oven door was
And
opened.
he's right.
He built a scale model. It was compact and yet could turn out delicious pizza with greater speed than ever before. He perfected his model with the help of the engineers of the G.S. Blodgett Company, adding thermostatic controls and sealing in the heat with scientifically designed insulation. Next, he had to overcome the human factor of resistance to change. Many Italian pizzeria owners were tradition-bound. Over a period of years, he set up model pizzerias of his own. He knew he had to
interesting.
show them in order to sell them. In them, he not only used his revolutionary gas-fired oven, but other advanced equipment he had developed to promote the cause of the pizza. Frank Mastro's faith in the pizza was not to be fully vindicated until World War II. Thousands of servicemen on leave ate pizza for the first time. Popularity came in a burst. The war over, the fame of the pizza spread across the country. The boom was on. Pizza became a naturalized word in the English language. Frank Mastro's restaurant equipment company became a busy place.
That's
Son
Bowery.
followed father
Bowery's.
into business. Vincent Mastro became his father's good right arm, and Frank earned the well-deserved title of the Pizza King. Since the boom began, Mastro has sold many thousands of ovens and has equipped many thousands of pizzerias through outright sale or franchise arrangement. The Mastro Pizza catalog contains every piece of equipment needed to establish a pizzeria, each piece designed to save space and promote efficiency. There are Mastro ovens to fit a variety of kitchen areas, some capable of turning out a pizza every 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And due to years of research and experiment,
See?
Mastro is able to offer the
Dough
famous
retarder.
dough rater, which automatically
Dough
maintains the
rater,
exact
like
temperature
refrigerator,
and
dough
humidity
rater.
required for storing pizza dough.
Interesting.
Frank Mastro Incorporated supplies all the accessories required
So,
in a well-outfitted pizzeria.
Scale,
From
the
sifters and strainers,
food process
to
of the
scales,
mully.
dough cutters and peels, as well as all the other important cooking utensils required for serving Italian food specialties. For pizzerias are but one facet of Frank Mastro Incorporated's business. A restaurant and bar equipment catalog fully covers this vital interest of the corporation. The firm designs and equips restaurants of all kinds.
bars and all that.
Bowling
Here,
alleys,
rewind this a little, or fast
snack
forward a little.
bars, catering halls, bars, Italian restaurant dining,
Keep
casting
going.
them in
Keep
4
going.
to life pizza packages. Each package will fully outload a piece. The way a
There,
pizza
stop.
is cooked, that is the secret of its success. The ingredients in a pizza are simple and inexpensive. One reason why the profit in pizza is so high: salt, yeast, flour with a high gluten
Mm-hmm. Well,
content, and
all
water.
right, yeah, stop. I mean, you
All
guys
are
get the idea.
required
Like,
to
that's the
go.
gist of it. But
For
it
the
was,
topping, to make
I mean, with Gaetano,
He's like a pizza god.
when he said this to
Yeah.
me and he was like, look at my father and he was on this thing and blah, 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 blah. Like, I was like, because I know the Bowery family or the guys that run the Bowery, Frank. I mean, that's not
Yeah,
his
I
last
know those
name.
guys, too.
But
I've been
he
there
bought
many
it off of, I guess Frank was having financial troubles and this and that. I'm gonna have Frank on before he gets it. Yeah, bro. I've been friends with them since I was a kid. I used to hang out there when I was like 16 years old. They used to chase me out. Then when I was like, I don't know, I was probably like 19 when I was spinning the pizzas. I was trying to get them to buy the Thronos off of me, and they'd be like, "Get out of here! What are you doing?" I used to break their cows off. You got to hear how they talk, like not
No,
just
I know.
recently, but
I know.
but yeah, he went in there. He saw the idea. You know, I guess he probably had some money, but he wanted to do his own thing. He wanted to be his own man. Right. So he bought this. It was already done. And he bought it, and they changed the name from Mastro's to Bowery. And that's it. They just, you know, and they're still there to this day.
They're like one of the most famous
legends.
Suppliers. I mean, I know them since I'm a kid. And they were in the Bowery. Nobody, you gotta understand something. Like, nobody went to the Bowery years ago. The only time you went to the Bowery was when you went by restaurant equipment.
Well, if you want to go to CBGB's, go see Blondie.
That's like later on. Like,
80s.
Let me tell you something. Like years ago, there was actually an expression like, you're gonna wind up in the Bowery.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
You're gonna be a bum.
Well, they still have the homeless shelters and everything over there.
Bums when I was a kid. They didn't call them homeless. They weren't nice about it. You know. So you're gonna be a bum and you're gonna wind up in the Bowery. Years ago, this is This is how people talk. Years ago when I was a kid. You know.
Yeah.
So it's funny how like the only reason why you went to the Bowery, because it was such a creepy place, was that you had restaurant equipment.
I mean, that's almost the only reason you go today. Like, they popped up, like, they have Vandal, they have some clubs over there, but it's not nice. They tried.
No, I mean, they have like this some apartment buildings that opened up that they created.
They have a hotel, they got a couple apartments.
Yeah.
It never clicked, though, because you still have, like, giant shelters over there. So it's
is
still.
That so? I mean,
yeah.
All right. Well,
there's like a little like modern
it's
music.
adjacent to Soho, so it's not that. I mean, Soho's nice, you know.
I mean, listen, the property's not cheap over there, but it's not cheap anywhere.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
But yeah, so I mean, I think it's insane that like so if this video, this is a corporate video from 1964, right? So and the research I've done means that Frank invented this in like 1958. So that means there was no such thing as a sliced pizzeria before 1958. Right. And I would have thought there was sliced pizzerias in the 40s and blah, 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 but the equipment wasn't invented yet, so there couldn't have been. Right, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, there was no, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. So now when you, so your father, he opens up, he learns from, your Pellegrino and Vinny. Right. He opens up at Bay Ridge. It goes sour.
And then he goes to Myrtle Avenue.
Okay.
Goes to Myrtle Avenue, and there's still I think there's still a liquor store where Andy's. Have you heard of Andy's liquor store?
I don't know.
Myrtle Avenue.
But he opens
it's right
up
by Metrotech, right over
Was
there.
it Myrtle and what?
It's like literally right across the street from the Metrotech.
Okay.
Okay. Flatbush is like right near there. Right. And like there's still a liquor store there called Andy's. If anybody's listening to this is gonna know Andy's liquor store. They've been there forever. And Dad's Pizza Shop was like a door or two doors away from Andy's. And
what year around is this?
This is the early '60s. This is like, civil rights riots down over there, and there was like a lot of the projects, and it was not it was just a very difficult place to make money at the time. There was like every 2 and 3 the place was just getting smashed, the windows were getting smashed in, and it was just it's a sign of the times, and we and he said, I got to get out of here. It's just not he was making more money there, believe it or not, than he was in Bay Ridge at the time. You had the Norwegians at the time in Bay Ridge who dominated, and they didn't really like pizza. They didn't know of pizza. It wasn't something that they were familiar with. So pizza was still gaining in popularity at the time when he opened up. And it wasn't something that, the old Norwegians were into.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing you bring up, because I remember, when like growing up, like there was like over by Flatlands and over by, there was like these little tiny remnants there where the community wasn't there anymore, but you heard stories about it. Yeah. Like whoever heard of Norwegian, like who would think Norwegian communities, they had the Lutheran churches, right? They all went to Lutheran churches.
Parks, like the parks were named after Leif Erikson and
Right. But who would have thought there was like Norwegian communities? Because even in the 80s there was, in the 90s,
there was still like there's some holdouts.
There was still, yeah. Crazy.
Still Norwegians hanging out there and stuff. So Dad was there when it was primarily Norwegian, and they didn't appreciate pizza. It wasn't something they were particularly fond of. And then he went to Myrtle Avenue, and that was mostly African American, and they liked pizza. And they did well there. He did okay, but he had to get out of there because there was
too much stuff going on.
Where Do the Right Thing was like a real thing,
for
him. You know what I mean? It was like that Spike Lee movie. So he he just was like, he just wanted to make money, you know, and him and my mom eventually wound up going in their Rambler. You know, it was a beat up old American Motors car. He was, you know, Chrysler was American Motors, you know, back in the day, I think. And he'd always say, "Don't buy American Motors," because he had a bad experience with the Rambler. You know, I'm sure that doesn't apply today. And they went around, going around New York City looking for locations to open a pizza place. And he saw this one spot, and there was a luncheonette there. You know, right across the street from Madison Square Garden in Penn Station. But my dad always despised that particular block because I mentioned earlier, he was a young man who was a messenger working for Western Union. So he would climb the stairs of the post office across the street. And he would look that way. He would look south and go, shoot, I hope I never have to go to that block because it's so gloomy looking. There were like dingy bars. There was like literally 6 dingy bars on that block. And it was very skelly. It was gross, you know.
What was the Blarney Stone? Was that there back then?
I think the Blarney Stone was still there. I remember there was this Star Bar. And, you know, when I was a little boy, actually, Madonna lived around the corner, and it was kind of gross still. And then my father told the story about how he saw, like, you remember Madonna living in the Star Hotel around the corner.
Really?
Yeah. And then finally one day he's watching TV at home, and he sees her. He said, "That's the girl from the pizzeria." You know?
That's funny.
It's really funny. You know?
When I was, you know, back in the day when I was hanging, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but when I was hanging out on the Lower East Side a lot, like, you know, I had my shop at Marine Park, and then I closed that, and then, you know, I used to hang out in the Lower when I was a kid and the Bowery, because I used to go to all the punk rock shows and stuff in the East Village and everything. And I got a job in the Lower East Side, and I was like, this is going to be fucking great. I got an apartment over there. I was like, yo, I'm going to be hanging out with all the old guys I used to hang out with, and it's going to be cool, and we're going to have a great time. And I start going to the bars, and, you know, it's all these hipsters from, like, Ohio and Colorado and stuff. And, like, I like, a couple of the bouncers from back in the day were still running the doors. So I was like, oh, Chucky, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. So there's still a couple things going on. But I felt like out of place. I was like being like, they didn't like me. You know what I'm saying? They don't like guys from New York. I was like a unicorn in the bar. I'm like the only guy from New York. Not only New York, the only guy from like the tri-state area even. Like I couldn't even find a guy from like Long Island or New Jersey or anything.
That's funny.
And
it was like when I lived in Park Slope. I was the only one from Brooklyn that lived.
But you know who was hanging out in the bars that I was hanging out with? This girl Stephanie was hanging out there, and there was this singer girl who used to perform. Her name was like Lady, I don't know, Fire, Lady something, who knows. Yeah. But this girl Stephanie, like, she had this crush on this guy Luke, and she was hanging out there, and my boy Joe, he was working at this place 151 and all this stuff, and Stephanie went off. You know, she was just some girl who used to hang out, and she went off to like LA, and 6 months later, yo, remember Steph? And I'm like, oh yeah, that girl, she had a crush on Luke or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah. She used to do the stuff next door. Yeah, she's like #1 on the Billboard chart. She's calling herself Lady Gaga now.
That's funny.
Yeah, and she used to like hang out, and she always would come back. But yeah, it reminded me of that, like the Madonna thing. But So now he opens up over there, and
so now he opens up in this what was previously a luncheonette. So it was kind of easy to open up. You know, it wasn't fancy. You had a few ovens, you know, a few tables, and we didn't even have a dough retarder.
Really?
No.
We
didn't have a dough retarder till the 1988.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, we just used a plain, because you got to remember.
What'd you use?
We didn't have the toppings.
Okay.
Right? So we didn't have the reason for that. So we let the dough rise on the bottom.
Okay.
Right? Of the table, of a marble table.
You had a marble table.
Marble table.
At least you had the marble, right?
We had the marble. It was a marble table, and underneath was like the steel aluminum case thing, and that's where we kept the dough in the bottom there. And actually, sometimes we didn't. The dough we used to keep it on the side. I remember the pizza man used to
What'd you use? What'd you put the dough in?
At the time that we had these wooden casings.
Wooden case. Yeah. The wood cases.
Yeah, the wood cases.
Well, that's what they used to use before Frank Mastro invented
and I'm
the
not
can.
persuaded that necessarily having those wood cases was a good thing. I know you'll have the master pizza dough guys who'll say, it's gotta be in the wood case, otherwise it's a no good. Bullshit. You know, I remember those wood casings were disgusting. I hated them. I couldn't wait to get rid of them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the condensation. I mean, if the health department sees any sort of wood today in your refrigerator, they'll fine you.
Oh yeah.
You know, because they're gross. And I remember being like, they've got to come up with a better solution to where you put the dough.
Right.
You know, because it was like get moldy and it was, you know, drippy and it was just terrible. But like the old Italian, like the pizza maestro, the dough guys, the master dough people, you know, would get like crazy if you didn't use a wood.
I mean,
You know.
it's not that way anymore. Like when I started first going to like the pizza expos and meeting the guys from the other side, it was that way. It was actually
so it was okay.
It was,
Yeah.
and this is going back to when I'm like in my young 20s, and then and I remember, you know, another thing I remember from back then when the Italian they were saying that it's not real Neapolitan pizza unless you use a buffalo mozzarella because. Fresh mozzarella, which they call fior di latte, this is what they would say. They would say, in Italy, what you guys call mozzarella, you're not even allowed to call mozzarella by law. But now, if you go to like a VPN or some kind of Neapolitan pizza school or whatever it is, they use the plastic trays. They use fresh mozzarella, like fior di latte, like, you know what I'm saying, exclusively. That's considered the...
You see,
so
like,
things change.
I'm going
things
to...
change.
I just have
the
to...
ideas,
I
the stories,
understand.
they change.
Yeah, right.
You know, these
But, like,
ancient
I
things
have
have
to
been
say
around
that, you know,
forever.
I know all these little silly rules that they've come up with. You know, remember, again, we Italian Americans...
The silly rules change a lot.
I know they're going to change all the time. So, which is, you know, which makes my case. Okay, I personally think all that is their silly rules. You know, it's got to be this dough and it's got to be this cheese and it's got to be this. All that is just stupidity made sacred. And
I mean, it's actually a lot simpler than that. It's money.
I think it's just dumb.
It's money.
Yeah, probably right. Somebody who has a controlling interest and says, "Okay,
if it's
I
your
want you to
job-
sell my brand of flour. I want you to sell my type of tomato, and therefore it's got to be this."
Well, yeah. I mean, to an extent. I mean, if it's your business to train people this ancient recipe,
You're right.
but you got to train people all around the world in different climates and different things and this and that.
Yeah.
You have to standardize it as much as possible. You have to make it as easy as possible. Like if you teach a guy how to
You're right. It's money. You're right about. You know, I
if
really
you
had
teach
to
a
put
guy in
that together.
Florida and give him
Yeah.
a master recipe, and a guy in New York, and a guy in Dubai, and a guy in California, a guy
vary.
in Arizona, well, no, it doesn't vary because the way that they teach you is you put it in these plastic things, right? And then you stick it right in the refrigerator. You don't do a warm fermentation because if you were to do a warm fermentation, that would change based on what environment you were in and where you were.
Well,
and
it's
blah,
going to
blah, blah,
change
blah, blah.
because your water is going to change. Your water is going to be a little different. You know, so I mean, it's always going. There's going to be like some difference, Dean. You know, I gotta have to.
Yeah,
disagree
but
with
it's
you.
not going to be a difference that you're going to have to troubleshoot from environment to environment and make specific recipes for environment to environment. You know what I'm saying? If you do 100% cold fermentation, it's going to be more or less the same wherever the fuck you are. Because if you make dough, you throw it right in the fridge. All the fridge in Dubai, the fridge in Florida, the fridge in Alaska are all 40 degrees.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, that's it. Trust me, I've been around this stuff. That's what I know. I know what they're
But
doing.
I'm going to say something. Grande doesn't go to certain places. So I mean, you know, you're not going
What?
to. Your pizza's always going to be different. Maybe your dough's going to be the same.
I'm not talking about like
You're talking about the
I'm talking
dough?
about if you're trying to teach
Yeah.
hundreds of people from all different places in the world
Yeah.
a dough recipe.
Oh, I see. Oh, you're
can't-
talking about specifically dough. Okay.
You can't tell them leave the dough out for 5 hours and then put it in the fridge.
Right.
You can't tell them to use wood baskets or wood containers to put in the dough because where do you fucking buy the wood basket in New York or Dubai. You know what I mean? There's not like an international seller for these things.
Right.
So you have to standardize everything, not only for like to work the same way everywhere, but to work in the fact that like, what is the equipment that I buy? What oven do I get? What dough containers do I get? Well, you know what dough containers you get anywhere in the world? Plastic ones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Are they plastic or are they fiberglass? What are they? I mean, I
The
know
ones we use are fiberglass. So the New York style ones that you're thinking of, that you're familiar with, they come in fiberglass or plastic. The ones I've never seen fiberglass from the Neapolitan ones, but they're a little bit smaller.
Because I remember, I know what fiberglass looks like because
they're more expensive, right?
I remember seeing a Corvette get smashed up when I was a kid.
What? I haven't thought about that fiberglass thing, but you're right, because when you go, but that probably conducts the cold better than the plastic does, right?
Probably.
It gets colder than the plastic.
Probably.
I'm gonna research that. We'll talk about it like
That's
off
interesting,
camera,
though,
like
right?
the fermentation,
and it's funny how
the science behind that.
I can tell what fiberglass is because like when I was a kid, there was this one guy who loved Corvettes where I lived, and he was for some reason always getting into accidents. So like his Corvettes were always smashed up, so you can actually see the fiberglass of the Corvette. So like when I see, like for example, the tray is getting messed up, like it's getting eaten up, I immediately see the fiberglass from the Corvette when I was a kid.
See, yeah, these are the things, like these are the little nuanced things that like people just don't know about. Like nobody knows about the fire. Like I forgot about it until you just mentioned it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, they were. Now, what about do you remember the oil method?
Of what?
Stretching pizza. Did you ever see this?
You know what? Can I tell you something?
Tell me.
Okay. I made a pizza once because I got into a fight with my dad, and I was like, I'm going to go work somewhere else. Okay. And I applied for a job. I got, I looked in Il Progresso, and I saw this guy needed pizza. I think it was on like, I think it was in Park Slope. Okay. And I went to try to make the pizza, and they made it in the oil method.
Yeah, right. With no flour.
And basically, you can't even twist the pizza, turn the dough.
You can't.
You just have to
press it.
You just have to. And I'd never seen this. Yeah. And I literally felt like I did. Like they looked at me like I was bullshitting them that I knew how to make pizza. Right. Like I know how to make pizza. Like, but I couldn't make pizza that way.
Yeah.
It was this oily, and it was kind of gross. And you were filled with oil, and I remember getting it all over my shirt, and this like. It was like a terrible way to work. I couldn't wait to get out of there because I felt humiliated too.
Well, right next to, inside.
Was it Smiling? Because I know the guys. I don't think
Smiling does oil method.
Yes,
they fucking do. I used to work there.
All right, I think it was Smiling.
Oh, actually, no. I never. I only worked there one shift because, bro,
they had the oil though.
They had the
oil method there.
So that place was so tight. Right
behind the counter.
Every time I tried out, because you had to be like, they wouldn't even take you unless you were like crazy. And I was young, and I wasn't that good at the oil method. But I walked in. My buddy owns a place. My buddy Sally, he owns a place over here called Joe and John's.
Yeah.
Young guy. He's like my age. Craig, he bought it off of some guy, but he learned how to make pizza at Rose's and a few other places in Queens. Now Rose's in Penn Station, they do the oil method.
Do they do the oil method?
They do the oil method. I think they're one of the original guys to do it, to invent it, because they started out in the 60s. And a lot of guys learned off of them and then went out and opened their own shops. But yeah, Rose's, I mean, we'd have to find the guys and fucking grab the history, which I plan on fucking doing at some point.
That's fun.
But I had fucking forgot about it. And because I've been doing, wood-fired pizza, I'm doing bread. I'm doing for so many years, for like over a decade, or more than a decade, way more than a decade. Yeah. And then I go to Sal, or I go to Joe and John's, and I see the guy Sal. I walk into the place, it's up the road, and the guy knows who I am. And the guy's like, "Oh, what are you doing in here?" Blah 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 blah. And I said bullshit. I was like, "Oh, I moved down the street. Figure I'd check out who's around here." So we start talking, blah 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 blah, and he goes. And I see him making the pizza. I see him doing the oil method. And it all came back to me like a fucking rush, like a flood. And he goes, I go, "Where'd you learn how to make pizza, Rose's?" And he looks back at me. He's like, "How the fuck do you know this shit?" And I remembered from when I was a kid, because when I got the job at Rose's in Penn Station, right? But I was with this like Albanian guy, older Albanian dude, and it was me and him. We were doing the counter. I wasn't allowed to make the pizza because I only knew the flour method.
Right.
But I learned, and then I remember when I finally learned, because I'm on the shift.
Do you take it out of the can? You have to like
take it out of the can. You put the oil on the marble. You press it out, and then you gotta flip it and stretch it, and then you go like this.
You go like this, and you're full of oil.
Now, you're completely full of oil.
I remember getting it all over my shirt, and it was just
so. Sal, the way he does it, there's some old man. I gotta take you over here and show you these fucking things. They're a trip. So they make the screens. It's an old man that hand makes the screens out of the window stuff. Like the window screens, that metal, that's actually metal. He uses that to stitch together so it's like floppy. So that's how Sal puts the dough on there. Now, Rose's was funny because most places that do the oil method put it on a screen, not necessarily those screens, but a screen.
Yeah.
Now,
I have screens at my shop, and that's only for when the pie's burning.
Yeah,
I'll put it on a screen.
Yeah, same with me.
Just to prevent it. That's it.
But Rose's, what they do is they do the oil method, right? And then when it's stretched, they stretch it out, right? They stretch it out so it's about like that big, and then they rub flour on it. And then stretch like this, and then put it on the peel so it goes directly on the stone.
Oil, you've got flour.
Yep.
I don't like it.
But I mean, you don't have to like it, but it's a very important. The reason why I'm bringing it up, and the reason why I like talking about it is it's this. Now, when I learned how to do it, it was a big moment for me because now in my career, because now.
You evolved.
No, I can work anywhere now.
Oh, sure.
Because when I'm walking around, I used to walk, if I wasn't going to the American Orgy into the classifieds to find a job, bro, I used to fucking just walk around Brooklyn and Manhattan and just, you need a pizza guy? No. You need a pizza guy? No. It just go from place to place.
How easy was it for you to find a job? Back in the day.
A couple days.
Would it take 2 days?
Just walking around, stop it. Yo, is a boss here? You guys need? I'm a pizza guy. You need one?
Oh, that's how you did it.
Make a pizza.
So you looked in the OG, and if it didn't work out in the OG, you just walked around.
I didn't even know about the OG until I didn't even know there was pizza jobs in the OG until I was.
Does the OG still work?
Like 20.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I mean, does the OG still work? All right, put it this way.
The OG has like old ads, am I right? Like a lot of. No, I shouldn't say that.
This is what I'm going to tell you the secret to hiring pizza guys or kitchen guys or whatever, like real workers in New York City or in New Jersey. Yeah. All right, here's what it is. American OG costs $150 for the whole month. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Now El Diario, which is where you get real guys from, costs like $250 or $300 for 3 days. Right? So you get 30 days for $150 in the OG, and you get 3 days in El Diario because El Diario knows that's where you're going to get real guys. So they charge you for it. Now, American OG.
I use Craigslist now.
I mean,
I use Craigslist.
I get a lot of problems with Craigslist.
Do you have a problem with
Craigslist? Do you put the ad in English or Spanish?
I keep it in English.
You keep it in English?
Yeah. Now, do you have a problem with that?
I mean, I get
you don't get
yo-yos.
You get yo-yos.
I get yo-yos. Yo-yos call my phone. Hey,
I know.
I never made pizza in my life.
You mind if I learn? Yeah.
You mind if I learn?
Can you teach me?
Like, it's not that time.
I found that. Go ahead.
But what American OG will get you is you'll get these guys. You'll get like a lot of older Italian guys who. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be your Friday night main guy. But like these guys, a lot of them are retired. They have some sort of income. Bro, they want a couple days. And the guy, if you call him up, if you're like, hey, Vinny, this guy didn't show up. I'll be there in 30 minutes. They're old school. You'll find them in there. But that's what you're going to find for the most part.
You're not going to get the
Once in a while, you'll get some 22-year-old fresh off the boat Neapolitan kid who you can teach quickly and who will fucking learn and bust his ass. Like I take those. I mean, now with the way that the workforce is, I'll take those fucking Italian kids that what we were talking about before years ago. Do you know? You would say like, oh, do you do it wood fired or you do New York style? Because I need you to do New York style.
Tell you wood fired.
I'll teach those guys who do New York style.
You'll teach them?
Now I will.
Why, Nito?
because there's no guys out there. You probably got guys that been with you 15 years, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Bro, get into a place where that's not the case, and trust me, you'll start teaching them too.
You know,
it's not like it used to be.
I don't know what these guys do. Like, for
Bro, there's
example,
not 10 guys lining up for a pizza job anymore. It's not like that anymore.
No.
You know what a shitty pizza guy gets paid in New York now?
What?
19, 20 bucks an hour.
Really?
Bro, all day.
Really?
Bro, because if the minimum wage is $15 an hour, how are you going to pay a guy who knows what he's doing anything less than 19? It doesn't work.
I know.
I mean, if the dishwasher's making 15,
I know,
how much,
you're right.
If the counter guy that doesn't know how much do you pay the pizza maker?
You're right. He's got to be making way more. Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah. Sure.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know? So, all right, we keep on veering off.
Yeah, we digress.
We're never gonna get
okay.
And we
Get to
digress.
my story.
Oh my god, my fucking headphones have fallen off. Jesus Christ. So now he opens up in Penn Station. Is that where
So
we're
now
at?
we open up in Penn Station, you know, and
We went through the Madonna thing.
we went
It's
through the
shitty.
Madonna. But before Madonna, I mean, there's some. I mean, yeah, okay. So it takes a little while before it builds, and it builds with the RCA. RCA was around the corner.
Wait, so RCA is the record company, or was that like a store?
No.
Was that like Empire Records?
What became TCI, Technical Career Institute, it was like an air conditioner. It was a school that made.
Oh, yeah, you were mentioning this before. It was a technical school that taught, like,
and it
what,
became
HVAC?
It became TCI afterwards.
Okay.
Oh
yeah, that's still isn't.
It's not TCI anymore. It
It's
became
Fashion
Turo
Institute.
Turo College now.
Turo, okay.
It became Turo College.
Okay.
And from there, that's where he was making his money from. He wasn't like we made more money with the Rangers than we did with the Knicks because the Knicks kind of sucked back in those days.
Right.
And so like you really didn't have a Knick fan, you know, so they didn't know where to get the Rangers knew where to get good pizza because they would been around. You know,
Right.
the Rangers were always good, you know. So like when you had a Ranger game, we knew we were busier than we had a Knick game because the Ranger fans were more of a loyal fan because it was a better team and they discovered us. You know what I mean? They would go regularly. I have Ranger fans that have been with us forever.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like for a really long time, you know? But like Knick fans are more recent. You know? Because the Knicks just weren't good.
What about the post office? You got like a lot of people.
We got a lot of customers from the post office. We had a lot of postal employees at the time. I remember for some reason I don't know why, but like a lot of the postal employees back in the day were like they had like a paper bag over a can of beer. That's how I remember the postal employee. Yeah, that's always how I remember the postal employee walking around with a paper bag over a can of beer and literally walking around with it and drinking it. All right, so I just always remember the postal employee like that. It must be a bad job working for the post office for some reason. I always felt that the postal employee was just not happy, you know. And I've seen a lot of them.
I mean, going postal. Who
Going
was that?
postal, right? He's going postal.
What's his name? Some like talk show guy was just talking about that the other day on something that I was listening to, where they were saying how like that used to be I grew up with that going postal.
Yeah.
I don't think kids know what that means anymore.
No, going postal meant you were just losing your.
I mean, I do.
You're kind of.
That movie Postal that came out in like 2000.
You're a fucking film nerd. You know a lot of shit that kids in. But I'm talking about like 5 years younger than you. They probably don't know what that term. That probably don't know what that term
It was
means
even in
at
a
all.
video game. Like once
it was a part of our
it was vernacular
language.
Yeah,
It was a vernacular.
Yeah.
It became like standard
Yeah,
English
that guy's going
language in the
postal.
90s.
Check him out, you know?
Yeah. He's going crazy. He's
They're
wilding
going
out.
nuts. He's just bugging out.
You know why? You know why postmen they go crazy? Because the mail never stops.
That's right.
It never ends.
It just keeps coming.
Yeah. There's no finish to your job. When you build something,
and I have a lot of them.
You build a table. You're done building the table. You know,
it just keeps coming, right?
The mail just keeps coming. It doesn't stop.
I have a lot of my friends.
Newman
They're nice
said that.
people. A lot of them. I don't want to put them all in one group. I know I have a lot of really good friends that were at the post.
No, we like the post guys. We like the post guys.
Yeah, come on.
Shout out to Mr. Alaco. Shout out to Mr. Alaco. So you guys are doing that now. What I mean, I don't know this. Maybe you do. Like, were you guys using? Was it grande cheese from the beginning?
No,
like, how long was grande? Been
actually,
around?
Grande's been around for a long time, but it wasn't Grande. It was Palio. Palio was making a good cheese back in the day.
Okay.
You know, they were making a really delicious
That was
cheese.
that was like
It was
low
kind of
moisture.
standard. Yeah, it was a low moisture.
So when you
whole
guys
milk.
opened, it wasn't like you weren't using fresh mozzarella. You were buying low moisture
First
cheese.
of all, fresh mozzarella is not really that fresh anyway. You know, we all know that, right?
Semantics, but
Right, it's not. You
Okay.
know, so nobody used that. We always used that the yellow, the provolone mozzarella. That you know that in my opinion is way more delicious than
low moisture mozzarella.
right.
Yeah.
It's way more delicious than that the other stuff. And we used Polio, and then we used Grande afterwards.
When do you think you made the switch? 80s or 90s? 80s.
80s. We started using the Grande.
And what was around for like tomatoes back in the day? Was it Stanislaus or was it other stuff? Stanislaus is a company that makes like ultra
I know what
Cucina.
Stanislaus is. I know. Yeah, are you kidding me? The Stanislaus people love me. I think. Stanislaus has been around for so long. And, I don't think my dad became loyal to a particular brand for a while. Okay.
Right.
Because I remember there was a guy named Danny Panarello. Do you remember Danny Panarello? Okay. Danny Panarello was a big, heavy set man. Okay. And he'd come over my house. I was a little boy. And he'd come over and he'd bring 2 cans of tomatoes. Right. And he'd say, and when I say heavy, Danny was heavy. Danny could barely sit in the chair, and he would.
Wait,
open
was
up,
he part of like the street crew with Stanislaus?
You know what? Danny was his own crew.
Yeah.
Danny,
I was just talking to Steve Rouse, the marketing director.
He always had like the cheapest tomato, but they were great.
Yeah.
But Danny somehow got him, and we don't know how he got him. So he comes over to my house and he's got to sell my father like all these tomatoes because Sal had a big place. He could stock them, you know. So he says, Sal, you got to buy these tomatoes, and he'd go, they're beautiful, right? So he'd open up a can, and he'd eat the tomato right out of the can, and I'd watch him, and you know what? I learned that's the way you got to try the tomato.
Yeah.
That's how you got to try to see if the tomato is sweeter than the other tomato. So I've done these other fancy tomatoes. I know everybody talks about the San Marzano, and I'm not a big fan.
I mean, they're all Fugazi. 95% of the ones
they're completely Fugazi. Yeah. I always say this: it's impossible for them to produce the amount of tomatoes.
I forget what the number is. We were just talking about this with somebody.
It's so fake. Every time I hear somebody say you got to use the San Marzano.
It's
right?
like there's 80,000 tons in America. The worldwide production's only 30 tons or something like that.
Okay,
something crazy.
Put the San Marzanos up against the good Stanislaus California tomato. And by the way, we all know that tomatoes don't come from Italy. Tomatoes originate from Central America.
It's true.
All right. So now, Danny Panarello, because Sal, they're beautiful. He's got this double chin that's shaking, right? Because he's got to sell these tomatoes, and he's got to get rid of them. He's got to somehow sweet. And you go, delicious. And he not just one, he put another one in his mouth. And I look at this and say, oh my God, that's so gross. I'm little, I'm like, look at it. And he'd go, all right, Danny, well, because my father was very, he's very shrewd. He'd say, well, what do you want for them? And I remember him giving him a great price, and he'd, tell him to give me 100 cases or whatever, 200, whatever.
And what was he having him try? Like, was Alto Cucina even around back then?
No,
they were all different things, right?
I remember Flotta pizza sauce. Do you remember Flotta? Flotta.
No.
You don't remember Flotta?
I remember. You know what I remember from when I was a
used
kid?
to use Flotta.
There was something called there was a cow called Luigi's that was like an Italian tomato that was like an $18 a case, real generic, like real. It was an imported Italian tomato. Oh yeah, I remember
at the time. I remember Dad used he used Italian tomatoes, and they would say, oh, you got to use this tomato because there's less of seeds, and the seeds are too bitter. You don't want something with too much of seeds.
I've heard it all.
You heard all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
I used to know a guy,
and
Dino,
now,
who used to run all of his tomatoes through, the machines that are like they're 1 to 3 horsepower that you use to make the ones that you use where the harvest comes in.
Yeah.
So those things take the seeds out.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this guy Dino was like he had one of those that he would pour the tomatoes into. and he would be like, he was saying something. He used to tell me something like the seeds kill you, and they make the tomato bitter.
They make the tomato bitter was always the one. The reason why using the blender was because of the blender crush the seeds, and the seeds make it bitter. Right.
Yeah.
This is what we were taught. Right. And that's why you had the what do you call that?
I used to call it a moolie.
I don't know, whatever it was.
It's like a food mill.
Yeah, the thing went like this, and
that's probably why they said, because it's a mill. It was probably Italian Americans trying to say mill, and they were like, Millie. Yeah. That's what guys would call it.
Yeah.
I
call a calendar a calendar.
If you go to Bowery and you buy Bowery and you buy one, I think it says moolie on the box.
That's
that they
so
sell.
funny. Like, I didn't know how to say ladle until a few years ago. I go, cupino. How the hell was I?
What is it? No, it's the wrong size. Give me the other one. Give me the other one. So what? So now your father gets his place. He's busted his ass. You don't fucking see your father.
Never see him.
You never see him. Your mother's upset.
And
what the hell's going on with you?
I'm very little.
What's happening with little Joe?
So
and
now
teenager Joe?
I'm like 8. No, this is not. Dad then came later on. He cooled out. He started doing well, but like he wasn't working that many hours. That many days. So I'm little and I'm playing in the backyard. The back. We called it the back. There was an alleyway because there were these garden apartments, and we used to live in the houses, and then there were the garden apartments, the people who lived in the garden apartments. I used to play with the kids from the garden apartments, and we used to play all kinds of games. And one game was Skelly. Did you know what Skelly is? Okay, Skelly is where you get a bottle cap and you melt crayon into it, different color crayon in each one.
Okay.
And you literally go on the floor and you have to and you number these boxes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you got to go 1, 2, 4, 5. And it's interesting. You have to get whoever gets to the last one first wins, right? And you had to get it in the box,
Wait, you draw the box?
You draw the box. We'd actually paint it on the alleyway.
Okay.
So there was a Skelly board always ready for us.
Okay.
And you had to get. So now you had to get.
And this is on asphalt or
no? Yeah, it's on asphalt, right?
Or
asphalt. In the alleyway.
Like the white sidewalk or the black sidewalk?
The black. All right, the black, not the sidewalk, in the street, the alley.
The street,
in the alley. All right, it was in the alley. It was on,
Is it that bumpy, like for the bottle cap to be going across? But that's the name of the game.
That's just how.
That's just how it was.
Down, it was maybe a little bumpy, whatever. It was, but that's how it was, and we played.
Right, guys, we're gonna check out Brooklyn Pizza Crew. We are gonna do a video in the next 2 to 3 weeks about how to play Skelly. We're gonna draw a Skelly board.
Google it. Go
make sure you subscribe, and we'll do a whole tutorial.
Okay, and I played Skelly as a kid. And I remember coming home one day, and I was filthy because I was on the ground. And I was playing this a lot. So I was coming home every day filthy. My mother would look at me. He looks like a bum. He's from the Bowery. Look at him. He's looking like a bum. He's going to wind up in the Bowery, And I remember, so finally, one day, my mother and father obviously had a conversation behind my back because I was becoming a bum playing Skelly. And he said, "You're coming to work." I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Right? I was 10 years old. And I said, "Yeah, go to work." This is great. So I went to work. I could barely reach the counter because the counters were high in those days. It wasn't like these low counters that you find at like a Dunkin' Donuts. If you go into the older places like J&V and My Place, if you look at the counters, they're all higher because that's how they were made. You stood up on a platform. If you worked there, you stood up on a platform and the counters were high. And it created a distance between you and the customer, which I don't like, by the way. I actually prefer the lower counters because it puts you on an equal footing with your customer. And that's where you really need to be, you know. So these high counters, think about it, Nino. You go into, you've been to all these places that are old school, and they're all high.
I never thought about it, but now I'm thinking about it.
They're all high, right? Yeah. So where I can't even reach the counter. Okay, I could barely put the slice. And in those days, there was no plates. You used a wax paper. You had a wax paper.
Really?
Yeah, there was no plates when I started. All right, and we were one of the last people to use plates too. All right, so we had the wax on the the slice on the wax paper on top of the counter, and that's how you got your slice. And it gave you a napkin.
What if you got 3 slices?
If you got 3 slices, we had the small,
the trays.
the round metal. What tray? You think of the plastic ones? No, we didn't have those.
The metal tray.
The plastic trays came out way later.
What if
we started using plastic trays in '88.
What if I walk in and I'm like, yo, I want 3 slices to go?
You got 3 to go. 3 slices to go. We used to put them in a bag. Believe it or not,
a bag.
4 slices. We used to put in a bag.
Okay.
In the bag that you put the 2 slices, you should get it. Go wink, and then on top of one another. And they got there looking
with
like
the wax paper, no
with
plates.
the wax paper, no plate, and they got there looking like shit.
That's fucking interesting.
It was terrible. I remember when my father would bring home 4 slices of pizza. They looked disgusting.
I can imagine if you complain, like they'd be like, "Hey, asshole, why don't you eat it in the fucking? Why don't you sit it down like you're a fucking animal? Why don't you sit down like a human? Eat your pizza."
It really wasn't like today, where everything is served nicely and there's presentation. It was not. It was not good.
Is it?
You got 4 slices.
Today
It's better.
Nicely?
It's better.
It's better than that.
Better. Come on, you got 4 slices of pizza in a bag.
I'm not sure we reinvented the wheel when it comes to that stuff, though. All
right. So maybe we have a long way to go. I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to it.
I mean, you know what I would love to see?
What's that?
In just a New York pizza game, like that what we just watched with that video with this guy who's a fucking engineer. He's an immigrant. He's like, you know what? There's a fucking problem. I'm gonna fucking solve shit. When was the last time anybody looked at the fucking logistical problems that independent pizzerias in the tri-state area? Because we're the only real slice joints in mass. We're like 80-90% of the slice joints are right over here. Nobody's looked at this and be like, hey, let me solve some problems and sell some stuff. Nobody's done it, I think, because I think the guys that you see at these pizza expos and these conventions that are trying to figure out these problems, most of them don't cater to us.
They're not geared to us.
No,
they're completely not geared to us.
14-inch and 16-inch
we're looking at them this is completely ridiculous.
I sell 18-inch pies and 22-inch slice pies.
Right.
You're not making equipment
You're
for
not
me.
helping me.
But we're most of the business. But what they're looking at is they're trying to... They want to get into the franchises, and it's like what they don't realize. I mean,
they're missing out on us.
Well, the franchises are only 20% of the game.
I know.
You know what I mean? Yeah. We're 80% of the fucking game.
Which is why Grande distributes to us.
Which is why Grande and Stanislaus are giant mega
they're
companies.
They're smart. You know.
You fucking hear that, you momos?
Just really.
Listen to what I say. Capiche? Man.
So so that's how you served pizza on a wax paper, and it was bad. I remember we used to literally, and then the people from the out of town, they were so used to getting this stuff with stuff on it. When they'd come to us, they'd be very disappointed because you didn't have a ton of stuff on the pizza.
Right.
Because if you went to Pizza Hut, you got all that stuff on it. And some of it's okay, I remember as a kid, I kind of liked the Supreme pie at Pizza Hut when I was a kid, and I enjoyed tasting it. But they would be disappointed because they want it, and they would say, we'd say, but you got to try it like this. Mm-hmm. Try it. And you know what? When they didn't walk out completely frustrated and they tried it, they enjoyed it. Right. Because you were really getting to taste the pizza without the toppings all over it, disguising it. Sure. Basically, my dad would say, you don't need toppings. This is what he would tell people. And he would act like a school. And he'd say, you don't need toppings because the toppings disguise the taste of the pizza. He would tell this to the customer.
I get that.
And I agree with that in a way. But I'd say, but at the same time, Dad, I'd say, give people what they want. If they want a slice with pepperoni, give it to them.
See, I'm with your dad. I say fuck them. I'm going to give them whatever the fuck I want. Listen, I know better than these fucking idiots. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny.
Now we chilled out and you know what I'm saying. I've kind of lost the battle. But when we opened Williamsburg Pizza, bro, I wouldn't even give them the garlic.
That was my father.
Salt.
Okay,
Yeah.
You know what he would say? He would say, no, that gives you agita. Acid reflux, for those of you who don't know what that is. He'd say, do you know we didn't have garlic powder?
I believe it.
I'm telling you.
I'm a big fan of granulated. You know what fucking
we didn't
happened
have
to me?
garlic
Tell you
powder.
a fucking story about garlic powder. I was living in when I was I think how old was I? I was probably 18 years old. I was living in Pittsburgh. Long story. Got kicked out of Brooklyn for a short period of time. Ended up in Pittsburgh. All
right, you're gonna have to tell me that one off the record, buddy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's gonna take all day. But
I get thrown out of Brooklyn.
I go to this. I find this slice place called Vesuvio, and they had, bro. This place had a picture
in Pittsburgh.
Across the street, south side of Pittsburgh. Great town, by the way. It is.
I gotta ask Colin. I know Colin Hagendorf lives out there. I gotta ask him to see.
You'd be surprised. You'd go out there. You'd be like, wow.
There's a lot of Italians over there.
Yeah,
in Pittsburgh.
there's some. But yeah, I go into this was all the places, and I would ask for garlic powder. And they would give me this, it was like white, really fine fluff. You ever see that like fluffy onion powder stuff?
It was like garlic salt almost.
No, it wasn't garlic salt because it wasn't like granulated.
Oh.
So if you actually go to the store, we call it garlic powder. It's not called garlic powder. It's called granulated garlic, what we buy, the yellow stuff.
Right.
Right? They had no idea what I was talking. They had to go to the back and they give me this little souffle cup, and I'm like, "This isn't fucking garlic powder. What the fuck is wrong with you?" And they had I would go nuts. And they had I don't know if you ever seen there's an old bakery. I don't know if it's still there. It might still be there.
Where?
But it was in Soho. It was called Vesuvio Bakery.
Okay.
They had a picture of it in the shop. And they were doing 24-inch pies. They weren't bad. I mean, for Pittsburgh, it was rough. Although the pizza scene when I was there,
really,
it was rough fucking scene. Like nothing even close to what we're used to.
Really?
No, this was the closest thing. And they made a 24-inch pie. It was made on the screen, because they couldn't even put the pie in. And this is. What? I'm 36. I was probably 19. So do the fucking math on how many years ago. And it was the closest thing that they had to New York style. And I would go all over the city. And they don't even know when you ask for garlic powder outside of New York.
Well, my father wouldn't even serve
Jersey.
My dad did not serve garlic powder.
I was the same way because this is the thing. Pizza, where my brain was at when I made that decision, even though I'm a fan of fucking garlic powder and I put garlic powder on all my pies, is that I am pizza had gotten shitty over the years, and with the little mini chains,
they put that stuff in the sauce. That's why.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they did a fucking lot of
They
things.
messed
But
it up.
all the little mini chains, not even, Sbarro's, I'm not even counting that in this, but that's because it's not even in the same category.
Yeah.
But, that place is bad.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's fucking mall garbage pizza.
Yeah.
But no, the Abattinos and the original Rays, famous Rays, not original Rays. The Pizza Pluses that were... They were taking all the best Pronto.
Yeah.
They were taking all the best locations. Oh, Familia. Remember Familia?
Oh, yeah.
There's still a couple
around,
left.
Yeah.
Bro.
Are they dying or what?
I mean, all the places that I just named have closed at least 75% of their locations. They were the kings.
Yeah.
They were the kings 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now they're done because it's
opinion,
dollar
like
pizza or it's pizza like we make. There's nothing in between anymore. There's no room because I'll tell you what, the fucking Two Brothers Dollar Pizza is better than most of those places were.
I believe it.
Swear on my mother, it's.
Although I'm not a big fan. I mean, listen, I say
I'm not a fan either, but I'm saying
for what you're
they were
getting,
selling garbage and charging me $3.
I see what you're saying.
They were charging me $3 a slice when a slice costs $1.75.
Right.
I could go to your place. I was paying $1.75. I go to Fat Sal's, one of these spots, or Pizza Plus on 9th Avenue. They're charging me $3 because they're in the mist. And I'm like, you can't charge me $3. I threw a pie at somebody. I threw a slice at somebody one day. I said, some I don't know where the fuck he was from. And I was like, bro, you can't charge $3 for this.
There's only one.
You're out of your fucking mind. I'm not being a dick right now. You can give me crap pizza, but don't give me this ketchup on fucking white bread.
Funny? I reacted that way one time. You know where?
Where?
I was in Cape May with my family. Okay, and we were at this one very popular. There's only one strip outside strip mall. There's one strip, and we walked down to this JoJo's, and the guy don't look like a JoJo to me. He's clearly not Italian, And what had happened was I ordered in a pizza for my children, okay, and the cheese was fake cheese, okay,
Really?
and it was really bad. I was like saying to myself, this is like had to be the worst pizza I ever saw. I was like, how could you possibly dare serve something so bad? And I was so frustrated from the whole thing. And my kids still laugh at me for this, that I was that upset that when we walked there that night, because every night we'd get the taffy, the candy, and all that, and I walked into his place, and I told him, I said, you should be ashamed of yourself for serving that. And I've never, ever in my life done that. That pizza was that bad, in my opinion. It was like the worst pizza I've ever had.
Right.
And I told him, I was like, this is absolute shit.
It gets you angry, especially when you know. I'm sorry for bugging out, by the way. I just got transported back into my 22-year-old mind.
Because we're passionate about what we do. And it's like shame, almost like shame on you for like giving this to the public.
Well, this guy,
like,
he knows better.
You.
He's using the cheapest cheese. The kid that I threw the pizza.
It's not cheese.
He's using the cheapest cheese he could. He's using the cheapest tomatoes.
Yeah, right.
And then it's like, I know I was in the business. I know what it costs. But now, charge me the regular price, but you're going to charge me more?
Right.
You're going to charge me more than the other guy?
Right, that's $1 slice.
Bro,
right.
This is before $1 slices.
I got to tell you something. I've had $1 slices. All right, this pizza was worse than $1 slice. I've had $1 slices.
Bro, I'm telling you, if you go to Familia Pizza,
okay.
it's worse than $1 pizza.
I don't like any of their pizza.
All right? If anybody out there is mad about it, come on the fucking podcast and explain yourself.
No, it's shameful.
Fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's
fucking horrible.
Really
These
shameful.
guys, I know what they were trying to do. These guys, they were trying to be the New York version of a Domino's, and they're
not.
And they're not.
They're
but,
not.
But I think
But
that
shame on them for like missing the mark, okay?
Right.
Because if you really wanted to be a good New York version of like a franchise, like a Domino's, you could have done that. You could.
It could be done. But this is what they've all been taught, right? They're like, look how many people. This is and this is. I don't even know if this mentality has completely changed. It's definitely gotten better. But like, there's still this mentality out there from this old school, like kind of 80s and 90s mentality where it's like the product doesn't matter that much because look at Domino's and look at Papa John's and look at McDonald's
and look at how
they have thousands of locations and they're not worried about the product. But it's like,
I've heard this mentality, but I really
fuck
think
you, and people are smarter today.
Absolutely. You know what? And people aren't going. When was the last time you went to a McDonald's?
Bro,
I can't remember when I stepped into it. You know what? I remember
fucking time.
I had a McDonald's hamburger, and I was like, "This is gross. How could I dare eat this shit?"
It's a broken
disgusting.
system, bro.
It's gross,
I mean, how much more does like a Five Guys or a Shake Shack or you know what I mean? Any of these other burgers cost, and they're superior. You know what I'm saying?
Way superior.
It's not health food, but it's good.
It's enjoyable.
It's
My son and I do go enjoy
and
the
you
Five
don't
Guys
feel like a complete piece of shit
afterwards.
Yeah. Right?
Like you ate fake food, you know?
Yeah, I mean, even if you enjoy, I mean, I know people who legitimately like love McDonald's or Checkers or any of these places.
They don't know any better. They just don't know any better.
They know, well, it's not like they don't like Shake Shack, but they legitimately, from a nostalgic point of view or whatever it is, but they're fucking these same guys, and some of them are good friends of mine. They're fucking depressed all the time. They're fucking lethargic all the time because it's like it's not like whether it tastes good right now. You could argue that that's like you know, it's an objective thing. You know what I'm saying? Like some person might feel one way, some people might feel another way. Now, like unobjective, like you can make a fucking argument. You know what I mean? In a court of law that says like, well, this is this and this is that and this is the reason why unobjectively it should be better. But objectively, okay, I'll go with the argument. But the thing is it's like, have you ever seen those videos of like when people save up a McDonald's hamburger for like 10 years and it doesn't decompose?
Right. It still looks the same.
It
looks
bro,
the same.
how could that?
Yeah.
I mean, That's got to be fucking
There's
you
something
up.
wrong with that.
That has to be,
Right.
like, I don't care what anybody says. That has to be destroying your body, destroying your mind.
Absolutely.
And I know for a fact,
Like,
from
what is that shit dipped in formaldehyde or something?
I don't know what the fuck it is.
You know, we
I
talk
mean,
about embalming.
Yeah, bombing. Yeah, we were talking about that before we started the podcast. I'm reading this book, and it's like this oral history of Italy, where this woman went out and did like interviews with all these like 90-year-old Italian women that grew up in like the early 1900s, and they're all saying like, you know, it's being translated, but the word in Italian that they're using to describe the chickens they buy at the grocery store is embalmed. They're like, how do they eat these embalmed chickens? And
Right.
it's
And
true.
that's what
I've
it
seen
is.
it. Like they put like bleach or ammonia or whatever the fuck they put. It's fucking crazy. All right. We're never gonna know how Joe.
Yeah, but this is funny.
So now your dad brings you to work at 10. You start learning. When did you learn how to like really make your first pizza?
My dad never wanted me to learn how to make pizza. Isn't that funny?
But did you learn
I did,
anyway?
of course.
Yeah, of course.
I started learning. I started learning when I was 10.
Okay.
And then, I practiced, and I really couldn't even reach the ovens. And, I get burned all the time.
How old were you when you were like semi-proficient, when you could like handle
13,
like a Tuesday?
like
Really?
that. Like 13,
Yeah?
I was getting better.
Still young.
I remember I actually did a Saturday when I was 13. I did a Saturday, 13 years old. In other words, the pizza man didn't show up, and I went in there, and I was 13 years old. But like at 13, for some reason, I was one of those kids that was like prematurely growing. Like I had hair on my face already. I looked like a pizza man, like the old pizza man,
Yeah.
And I remember like my father going, all right, you want to do the Saturday? Do the Saturday, man. I mean, he was like upset though that I knew how to make pizza, because he didn't want me to be a pizza owner, but he just wanted me to be a doctor like him. He wanted to kind of live through me, So I was making pizza, and I enjoyed it. I felt a sense of pride that like I was able to feed so many people, that I did that. I was able to feed a piece of New York, and with my hands, and I was proud. I was only a kid. I mean, of course, I knew I didn't want to be a pizza maker for the rest of my life. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I had other ambitions. I knew I wanted more, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in the business. I liked it. It was a happy place. People come in a little cranky sometimes, but overall, because they're hungry. But overall, people are happy to be in a pizza place. The people are excited to be in a good pizza place, and it's nice. It makes for a nice place generally. With few exceptions. I mean, if you're doing other stuff, like most people hate their jobs. It's a grind, going to to their office, 9 to 5, and they call it the scary Sundays, like, oh shit, I gotta go to work tomorrow, and people get blasted on the weekends because they're just so miserable that they gotta work 5 days ahead, you know what I mean? And so, like, I never felt that way about what I was doing growing up. I was actually, yes, it was my father's place, but my father treated me worse than his employees. My father treated his employees with more respect. With me, it was kind of like he owned me. I was his son.
Yeah, but I think that's like he wanted you to be better than them.
Yeah,
like,
he did.
I've seen that before. I've seen that with people that really cared about me. They were harder on me because they wanted me to be better.
Yeah.
They were like, this guy,
So my father was tough on me. My father was, it was no picnic working with my father.
I'll tell you something. If my son ever gets into this, I'm gonna be tougher than him than anybody, because you need to be. You need that. If you're gonna do this and you're gonna be great, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna come with smiles and pats on the backs and this and that. Obviously, the way I came up, there's a better way to be done. There was a little Neanderthalish, but you know what I'm saying. It's still, I think it's you're not going to get away with it by making it easy on people by saying like, "Oh, great job." It's like
you're not going to coddle them and give them a trophy for just showing up.
100%. Well, I'll tell you, it was a couple weeks ago. It was my birthday, and me and my son share a birthday, and
How cool is that?
so I had him for the week, and he's been trying to beat me at air hockey for
Oh,
the
is
past
he?
3 years. He's 12 years old, and I don't
That's
let
so
him
cool.
win.
Right, because you want to keep it up,
Bro,
right?
I'll tell you. Well, let me tell
I
you.
love it. I
This
used
is
to
a good
have that
story.
with my
Bro,
son.
I won't let him win. I'm like, and a few years back, he brought like a Sega Genesis because all these kids, they love the retro games now. It's fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
my
It's
son
like,
does too. He likes the
so he brought the
Nintendo.
original Sega Genesis.
so funny.
And we're playing Mortal Kombat. He's like, Dad, come play this game with me.
Yeah.
And I told him, this is probably like 4 years ago. And I told him, so he's probably like 8 or 9 years old. And I told him, I said, I used to play this game when I was your age. And he says, he's like, oh, okay. I don't think he got it. Like he didn't understand it. He thinks it's brand new.
Right.
Because you buy it in the store. You go to the Best Buy or the Toys R Us. That's where you buy it. Like, how could my father have had this thing? Like,
Right.
he didn't. I don't think he understood.
he's rich.
So I'm like throwing the, the special moves, get over here and freezing them with Sub-Zero or whatever. I'm, 'cause I remember from when I was a kid, and he gets all upset. Starts getting all upset. I'm like,
wait, how
I'm
old is he? How old is he?
He's like 8 or 9.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. What's going to happen? He's going to kick your ass like really soon.
Listen to what
Go
I do.
ahead.
So I go, what's going on, buddy? And he's like, oh, well, I don't, he's, he's upset. He's like, well, I don't understand. Like, I've been playing this for a while now and practicing, and I don't know, like, how could you just be better than me, like, instantly? And I was like, listen, buddy, I was trying to explain this to you. I had this game when I was a kid, when I was your age. I've been playing this since I was a kid. But listen, when somebody's better than you at something, right, you don't want them to let you win. You want to play with them, whether it's like pool or whether it's a video game or whether it's like you're playing soccer. It doesn't matter. You want them to play at that level and ask questions. And like, you want to learn these special moves, I'll learn from you. But if I go easy on you, you're not going to get better. Right. If I play at the level that I'm playing at with you, you're going to go back home. You're going to go back to your mother's house.
Figure it out.
Bro, no, not only that, but just off of these sessions, when you go play your friends, you are gonna destroy them. So we've been playing air hockey. I don't let them win ever,
right.
bro.
That's
and
funny
we
to
played.
know.
We probably played like 4 games, right? And the last game he was like a point off, and then on the 5th game, like it was like day 4, we were together, and he won.
Did he?
He won, and he legitimately won.
Wow.
Like I was like, we were like
great.
1 point away, and I was like, bro, I'm not letting this freaking kid win. And he beat me. He beat me legitimately, and it was just like the joy on his face and the sense of achievement that he had. You know what I mean?
He knew he beat you.
He's like, he knew.
He beat you.
And he legitimately beat him.
Right.
I don't play around.
You know what's funny? You talk about air hockey, right? And those video games. I have this game that that other hockey with the bubble. The bubble,
Yeah.
the bubble hockey. Oh,
Like it's like foosball, but hockey.
right, with the bubble.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I used to kick his ass with that,
Right.
And then like recently, like I just can't win. He's that good.
Bro, but
He's
but
that
if you
good. I
weren't
can't-
kicking his ass,
Yeah.
he would have never got that
No,
good.
I understand. And then when it came to like Mario, when he was little, he used to, every time he used to fall in something, and he'd start to cry. I said, I'd have to. It's okay. You got other chances, and you can keep playing. And like he is so good now, like saving the princess. He like routinely saves the princess.
How old's your son?
Now he's 15. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah,
but
my
like,
son's 12. Yeah, not
Yeah.
too far apart.
Yeah, but he's like Mr. Video Games, Smash Brothers, and he's great at them.
Oh, so you're talking about he was playing the Mario Maker, where it's like the original one, but it's on the new
yeah.
system.
But he was doing
you can
all
build
of
your
them.
you can build your own levels and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, he
It's
does
crazy.
that too. He's got that too.
Well, when I was a kid, that stuff had just come out.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
In fact,
It was just invented. Not only just came out, but like really it was
I
invented.
know, because-
I mean there was Atari before and different
Right,
things,
Atari,
but they weren't
yeah.
the same.
No. No.
I mean,
Atari wasn't anywhere near as good.
no, I remember
Nintendo.
I remember somebody
Graphics.
had
in television. Do you remember television?
I mean, people had it and I
Okay.
played it.
Right.
But like I was like, when I played Atari and so, because, there was somebody who had an older brother and they still had it in the house, and you would find it and you'd be like, let's see what this is about. And it's like, we were like, this
Space
is terrible.
Invaders, right? It's like the best name.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't, well, by my age, like we were past, like we couldn't play, those 80 games they were impossible to like, I mean, we wouldn't even mess with them because by the time we were, old enough to really go to the arcades, there was the ones where you would sit in the actual car or the motorcycle, or you would have an actual gun and be shooting at stuff. So like Space Invaders and Pac-Man, like we knew what it all was. It was all still around. But we were like, skip
But it was
that.
crappy. Like the Pac-Man was the shittiest.
It was crappy.
Oh, it was terrible.
Oh, I got a hilarious story about that. So there's this one of the guys that really taught me the restaurant business. This guy Venancio Pasubio. He's from the other side. He owned Brigante in the South Street Seaport, Il Brigante, and I used to work for him. And then we eventually became partners later on, and that's how I opened my first place in Marine Park, Brooklyn, when I was like 23 years old. But he came back. He ended up going to jail for something like this. This guy's got a crazy story. We'll talk about Venancio on another podcast. Hopefully we'll like try to save him. I think he's in Italy right now, on the street. Anyway, Venancio, he used to walk around with like $20,000 watches and $5,000 fucking shoes. And
really?
Yeah, he had like he was making a lot of money at the restaurant back in the day. But anyway, he came back. A bunch of crap happened to him. And he comes to the pizzeria, and he was like, hanging out at Williamsburg Pizza and like doing deliveries with me and doing like different things. And Venanzio's great. He's like the real life version of the most interesting man in the world. He's hilarious. The way he talks is he learned how to speak English in England before he came to New York. So he's like, Nino, take out the fucking rubbish. He doesn't say trash. He says all the English words.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, we're in Williamsburg, and he just out of nowhere he goes, Nino, do you know this game Asteroid? And I'm like, Asteroid, like the 80s game, like the arcade game? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I know what it is. He's like, Nino, do you know a place that has this game? And I was like, yeah, there's actually a place called Barcade that's got every 80s game in it, like up the block from here. And he's like, Nino, take me there. And we get there, and he goes, Nino, I'm going to beat this game in 1 quarter, right?
Really?
Now, I know how impossible beating any of those games, like with as many tries as you want, is. Bro, so he goes, Nino, I bet you $200. I was like, 1 quarter, you're going to beat this game. And he's like, yeah. And I go, bro, I'll pay $200 to see that. Yeah, let's go. Bro, or he said the high score. He didn't say beat it. He said, I'll get the high score.
Yeah.
And he sat there for an hour and a half and beat all this game. Now, this guy's like from like Cosenza, Calabria, like in the fucking
they
mountains.
They probably had one freaking bar.
I know exactly what.
One game, and there he was playing that shit all day.
Bro, this guy, there was.
I know.
It took an hour and 45 minutes
to stop
straight to get to the end of the game. Like an hour in, there's like 15 people. By an hour and 15 minutes, and he's getting towards the later stages because people are passing and they can see what's going on. There must have been 45 people like
around him.
I'm running. I'm going to the bartender. I'm like, yo. My cousin, he's about to beat the high score. He's about to beat the whole game in 1 quarter. I was like, do we get something? Do we get like free drinks for life?
Do we get a limoncello, maybe?
Yeah, what's the prize? And he's like, the guy was like, what game is he playing? And I was like, he's playing like Arkanoid. And he's like, yeah, he's not going to get the high score. I was like, no, you don't understand. You don't know what's going on. He's 1 quarter. He's like
from the mountains,
bro. He put 1 quarter in. He's an hour and 15 minutes in. He's gonna beat the whole game. He's like, bro, I don't know. I'll give you a beer. And I was like,
really?
All right, I'll fucking take the beer. Great. But anyway, that's
so
my video
funny,
game
man.
story.
That's a
But,
funny video game
All right, so let's move on to your least favorite topic. What did you end up doing out of college?
Out of
You
college?
became a lawyer. Listen,
did.
I know you hate talking about this, but you're
Yeah.
famous for it, and everybody knows you as the pizza guy turned lawyer, turned back into a pizza guy.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. That's big.
So,
Yeah, so I practiced for almost 10 years, and I'm still admitted, and I practiced law. I was a trial attorney.
I thought like when you like switch back from being a lawyer to a pizza guy, the bar they don't look pleasantly on
They
that.
don't
They're
like you anymore.
You're setting a bad example for everybody.
You know what's funny? You'd be surprised. A lot of people go to law school and never even practice. Do you know?
Really?
Yeah. Do you know?
And pass the bar, do everything.
The whole thing. I remember a teacher once asked the classroom, "How many of you intend on practicing?" And it was only about 50% that raised.
So why
their
go?
hand. I think a lot of them maybe making their parents happy or something, or maybe they were trust fund children or something like that. I don't know, but like 50% raised their hands and said, "I intend on practicing," and then the other 50% just like going to have the knowledge under their belt and they were just going to use it. I don't know. It's weird, right? I mean, why would you go through something so grueling?
That's crazy.
To law school was not a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
It was like, and neither was taking the
hold
bar.
on, let's stop right there. Let's take a little bathroom break. We'll be right
it's
back.
cool.
We'll pick it up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So grueling. What's how grueling was it?
Well, I mean, it's just the amount of work
Right.
that was grueling. It was basically it wasn't like if you had more time. It was the amount of work that was being given to you. It wasn't that necessarily difficult, but it was a lot.
And were you like, so when you went to college and law school, like what college did you go to, by the way?
I went to NYU.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're still in the city. Were you
I
still
was in the
staying
city
with
the
your
whole time.
parents or like?
Yeah, well, I had my own place.
Okay.
Yeah, I had my own place, at the time, and it was, I liked being in the city.
Right.
I always liked New York City. I'm like Mr. New York City. I love New York City.
You were going to the clubs and stuff back
Oh,
then? Where
we were going to Cafe
partying?
Iguanas. You remember Cafe Iguanas?
No.
Johnny Rockets, and it was so much fun. I had some real fun friends at the time.
Johnny Rockets, not
Johnny
the burger
Rockets.
place.
No, not the burger. There was a bar. There was a club name. That night, we were going to Magique. We were going to Johnny Rockets. We were going to Magique was the place that Chippendales. At the end of the Chippendales, like it became Magique.
Okay.
So the girls were all like
Chippendales.
There was
Wasn't that like the
Chippendales.
gay
No, it was where the women would go crazy. The guys would come out and like strip.
Yeah, male strippers.
Yeah, it was male
Chippendales.
strippers, and then at the end, when that finished, it became a club.
Okay.
It was not far from Dangerfield's Comedy Club,
Oh, yeah. I know Danger
like a block away from Dangerfield.
Really?
It was Magique. My friends and I, we went there a lot, and we went to Cafe Iguanas where you dance on the bar. It was you watch somebody fall off and from dancing on the bar.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Did you ever go to, it used to be the Ritz, but Webster Hall?
Yeah, I went to Webster Hall.
but
I
did
didn't
it-
particularly like Webster Hall.
When did it used to be called the Ritz, though, no?
No, I remember it as Webster Hall.
Oh, you remember it
Yeah, I
as
remember
Webster
it
Hall?
as Webster Hall.
Yeah.
I mean, before I mean, it's been going back a long way, but I remember it as Webster Hall.
I mean, we used to go to like concerts and stuff there, and we ended up like
There was a lot of concerts there.
Well, we ended up becoming like when I was in my 20s. We somehow we made friends with the with like the GM, who was this guy Gerard, and we were buddies with him, and we were buddies. We ended up meeting like the owner's son, so we would roll up. And it was just like, yo, here's your Drake tickets, go right in.
Right.
You know,
Oh, that's
you
awesome.
get your band, you could go wherever you want. But yeah, tell me about like, I mean, I went to college when I was like real young, when I was like 16 for like a year. But like that was law school, ton of work, right?
Yeah, law school was just it was a lot of work. It was completely different. Like college was basically read the book and regurgitate it out on a test paper. Whatever it is that you're learning. Okay.
Right.
There was no there was nothing. You weren't really applying anything. You
Okay.
know? Whereas law school was more of, okay, we're going to give you a case. Okay, you got to filter out the law, extract the law from that. And then, we're going to give you a bunch of cases, extract the law from that, and now we're going to have someone give you a fact pattern, like someone's coming into your office with this very convoluted set of facts. And you have to extract all the issues, what's called issue spotting. And that's what lawyers do.
Okay.
Extract the issues, and they would call it like find Easter eggs, the issues. Find the Easter eggs,
Sure.
Extract the issues. Because the guy's not going to come and say, listen, I have an intentional tort case, You have to extract that. You have to you have to diagnose it, sort of.
What you just say, tort?
Intentional wrong, intentional tort.
Speaking Chinese to me, John.
I know. I don't mean to be
understand
talking
this
over your
stuff.
head. I hate when people do that.
No, it's okay. No, I'm interested. So
like,
intentional cause is what?
Intentional torto, right? In Italian,
Okay.
torto is wrong.
Yeah.
Intentional wrong.
Okay.
Kind of like, defamation.
Right.
Defamation is intentional wrong, like intentional torts, right? Or, invasion of someone's privacy. That would be an intentional tort, I believe.
I feel like lawyers make up. They use all the Latin and everything just to confuse the regular people, right?
I've heard that before. Yeah. So I mean, so I did that for a number of years. I mean.
What is it? Is it you were
intrigued
saying your
by it.
father wanted you to become a doctor? Was that like
yeah?
part of that?
So I'm sitting at my house one day, and this is how it goes down. Okay, I've got my cousin Rosario, who's my godfather, and I love him dearly, and let the world know that. Okay, and he's always been there for me. So, and he's a doctor,
Yeah.
and my father's so proud of him, and basically wants me to be another Rosario, and I'm in my junior year of high school. And I'm home, and Rosario's over. And he goes, well, Rosario's here. We're going to talk about medical school, And I just got pissed off. I go, look, I don't want to be a doctor, Oh, you don't want to be a doctor. He doesn't want to be a doctor. Well, how about that? He goes, well, what do you want to be? A garbage man? So I said,
Fucking good job today, by the way.
absolutely
Those guys
nothing
make
wrong
tons
with
of
it,
money.
right? But
That
was always the put down.
Yeah, no, I hear
it was
you.
always the put down. You're not good enough for anything. You're just gonna throw garbage out, and and I know a lot of sanitation employees, they don't like being referred to as garbage man.
Right, no, 100%.
And I remember him basically like. Here I was like 17 years old. And somehow I've got to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm really being put on the spot. And I knew what flew and what didn't fly.
And that's that immigrant,
That's
first
that
generation
immigrant.
mentality.
You gotta. And it's like, and I said, I'll be a lawyer. Basically, he cut my balls off, and it's like, I knew that I had to pick something. Because my cousin Peter had just become a lawyer. And I liked Peter, and I could relate to Peter, and I figured maybe I'll do what Peter did, And I knew I was good in English literature. I was a fairly good speaker, and I was good in writing. So I said I'll be a lawyer. I really hadn't even thought about it up to that moment, of what I could become, what I should become, But it really put me on the spot. I said I'll be a lawyer. I remember being so intimidated at that moment, and it was like. You could see he completely decompressed at the moment, like I didn't say I wanted to be a rock star or something like that,
Right?
I didn't say something crazy, crazy for him. Nothing wrong with being a rock star.
Yeah.
They
No,
make
100%.
a lot of money.
No, I can see where a parent, if somebody's like, yeah, I'm gonna be the next,
I'm gonna be a zoologist, Dad. Whatever. No one ever told me I could do all that. I mean. I felt completely pigeonholed. This is what I have to do.
So after you become a lawyer, are you involved? You graduate law school, you pick your law. Are you still involved in the pizzeria at all during that? Okay, you are.
I am to some extent. He's always having problems because he's getting older.
Right.
Okay.
How old is he around? Roughly.
Dad's he's not
60s?
old, but he's he's an out of shape old. You know what I mean? Because you're not old when you're 60.
Right.
You're only old because you're not taking Dad was diabetic, and you know, he didn't. That generation didn't exercise.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they didn't know about exercise. Jack LaLanne was like the only one who exercised.
Right.
Remember Jack LaLanne?
No.
All right, I'm like talking over you.
Jack
LaLanne.
Jack LaLanne?
Oh, Jack LaLanne. Okay, all the Bailey's Fitnesses. Do you remember Bailey's Fitness?
Yeah, I do.
Well, before they were Bailey's Fitness, they were called Jack LaLanne's. Okay. And he was the one who owned, like they was named after him. And Jack LaLanne was like this guy who was like in his 90s and had muscles, and he exercised, and he would do commercials where he would be doing jumping jacks.
I remember Richard Simmons. Was he like that guy?
He was no.
Richard Simmons used to do a lot of
Simmons
jacking,
was like
jumping
more
jacks.
for like women, and like you know, he would cater to them. Jack LaLanne was like an exercise, like he had muscles.
Did he have like the old Tommy dumbbells with like the big like?
I don't know. I mean, but I remember he had muscles.
The springs.
And he was old.
Did he do the springs?
No,
Remember the springs from the old timey
No.
movies?
No? He didn't I don't remember the springs, but I remember he was like the one guy who was fit.
Okay.
And he was older.
And what was this? A bunch of gyms in New York? He had
a ton of gyms, and I think he owned them. There was
and what would you do? You would lift weights?
There was a spa too. They call it a spa. Like my aunt, my oldest aunt, my Aunt Jenny would say, "I go to the spa." You know, she was the one who didn't. Who spoke English well. I had like two aunts that spoke English really well, and two aunts that spoke English really crappily.
Sure.
You know, and my Aunt Jenny spoke very, very well. She was very articulate. She had no accent, and she used to go to the spa when it wasn't even popular. And she owned Valenti's Pizza, by the way. Jenny Valenti. Valenti's Pizza across the street from that pharmacy I was talking about earlier.
Okay. Old school spot.
She was the one. She actually knew how to make pizza. Really? Aunt Jenny. And there's not very many women that made pizza.
We might have to find some pictures of the stuff.
I got them for you.
Yeah.
I got them. I have them.
We're going to...
My cousin Danny has them.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, I got them.
Yeah, we got to find it. We got to digitize all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
We'll plug them in. Hey, if you guys are seeing pictures popping up, that's because we plugged them in. Thanks to Joey. Thanks to Dino. Thanks to young Brady over here. So what the hell were we just talking about? I'm lost. So the gym. Oh yeah. So your father.
Okay, so like
you still gotta help him out.
You know, I had to help him out because like he'd have issues. There was always issues he needed me to figure out. Okay, he had issues with the business, and he needed help, and I would help him. And
like staffing issues.
Staffing issues was always an issue for him. You know, he always had staffing issues.
Right.
And one day they all quit because he was having problems with my brother-in-law at the time, who was running the place, and. You know, whatever. There were issues.
So you're a lawyer now, and now you got to go back in.
And sometimes. I got to literally go. I literally at one point actually, I was working at a firm and like managing the firm, a small firm in Brooklyn, and I had to quit because all of his employees quit.
You had to quit the firm.
I had to quit the firm.
You're working at a law firm.
I'm working at a law firm.
Probably making tons of money.
Decent money. Yeah, I was making good money, and I had to quit. Because he asked me to help.
Did he give you like $10 an hour at least?
No.
When you quit?
So he paid me well. He paid me well.
Oh, okay.
So you gotta help me. He was in a real bad pickle.
Yeah.
You know, so he had like no workers, and we had to bring the place back up. You know, and I helped him. We restaffed it, and because he was just old, he couldn't do it anymore. Like this is towards the end. You know, took like a couple of years before he died. You know, this is what I'm talking about. Like a couple of years before he died, he was like late 60s, and he was not in good health. He had like serious complications from his diabetes, and things were just going south for him. And I had to help him, and I did. So and then he passed, and I had left New York City at the time.
Left.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I went to Buffalo.
Okay.
And I know that's a
little cold.
Yeah, no, it's not really cold.
Not?
No, it's not, because Buffalo's really not that far north. It's as far north as Albany. Okay. It's really west. It's western.
Doesn't
New
it
York.
Snow a lot more though in the winter?
Because you got the lake effect snow.
Yeah.
But it's really not colder. Like it's cold. It's as cold as Albany, but you have the lake effect snow. from the Great Lakes over there, Lake Erie.
That's kind of what I think of when I think of like. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
like
you're
even
getting-
when you go like an hour upstate, they get a foot more than us.
No,
like-
it's not. It's not even a foot. Like the snow gets dumped on you.
No, in Buffalo, but I'm saying an
yeah.
hour north
Yeah.
of here,
Oh,
it'll
yeah.
not snow and there'll be a foot up there. I
absolutely.
can't even
It's
imagine.
crazy.
In Buffalo,
It's
there's like
crazy.
6 feet.
Oh yeah,
You
Buffalo's insane. It's called lake effect snow.
Okay.
And you get like lake effect. Like it'll dump on you.
Yeah.
So I'm driving around in a C230 Mercedes compressor at the time, which is a rear wheel drive.
Right.
Okay.
Not great
and
for
it
the
had
snow.
this funky new style windshield wiper. It had one windshield wiper. You remember that stupid one windshield wiper? It was the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And the snow's coming down so heavily that it snaps on me.
Oh my
The
god.
one and this is like, dude, I'm talking. This is October. We had this October storm.
Yeah.
Do you remember this when they had,
I mean-
and it completely changed the landscape of Buffalo.
I mean,
and I got
re-
stuck in it. All right, and I'm literally now I can't see out the front window, and I got it like because the windshield the wiper snaps.
Right.
That's how heavy it was coming down. It snapped the wiper. It just said, done, right? And I got my head out. And I'm trying to drive back to my place at the time. Okay.
So you're in Buffalo. Your dad, condolences.
Thank you. Thank
and,
you.
And then what? You
So
got to
Dad
rush
dies.
back to New York?
I
or
got to
what
rush
happened?
back to New York. All right. Luckily, I hadn't bought a house yet. I was about to.
Okay.
And so, I basically have to take over this very. The place at the time was not doing well. You know,
Right.
it was mismanaged, and because he was sick, he couldn't run it anymore.
Yeah.
But you know the old Italians. He's the only one who could take an order from the.
Sure.
The,
No, I know what it is.
I could pass the bar, but I couldn't take an order.
Right.
You know, I let me do it. Hold on. You know. You know, but
I know the mentality.
you know the
well.
mentality.
Wow.
Yeah, only they could
Very
do
well.
it. You know.
Yeah.
So, and that's who he was, and I let him do it. It was his baby. You know, I wasn't gonna. You know, and so I saw how he ran things, and Dad did a lot of things right, and I also think he did a lot of things wrong, and I learned from his mistakes too, and I wanted to implement changes, and my father wasn't one who liked change, you know. So I finally implemented. Like I thought about him, and he made me second guess myself a lot, but I finally went through with the changes that I wanted to make.
This is after he passed away.
This is after
Yeah.
he passed, and I'm glad I did.
And
'Cause
you
we used
kind of
to-
feel like
we
he's
used to-
on your shoulder, right?
Oh, constantly. And I finally made the changes I needed to make, and I did, and they were successful changes. They were good changes that I made, and I'm glad, and I think I brought the place to a new level.
What kind of changes? Like, what are we talking about?
Okay,
here?
well, basically, we're very simple changes, you know, like saying yes more to
Okay.
people. Okay.
Customer service.
Customer service was key instead of like fighting and arguing with customers. Like you don't do that.
Right.
You want to really like minimize any sort of negative interaction you have with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I did. I thought it was really wrong how we used to. I was upset. I used to be very upset when we used to interact with customers. Like,
Okay.
Customers are key. Okay, and you have to. Now, I don't believe in the customer's always right theory either.
Right.
Okay, because only God's always right. Number one. Okay, but you have to cater to your customer. Okay, because I mean, listen, the customer can be a pain in the ass too. The
Sure.
customers can be wrong too. Like they can be like rude, and like I don't have patience for like a really rude customer. You know, I'll
Well,
nice.
I mean, that creates like a really bad experience for your other customers.
and for
Sometimes you
your
got to
staff.
fire your customers.
and right, sometimes you do, and for your staff too.
Yeah.
because you got to back your staff up too.
Right.
That so because your staff has to know you have their backs. You know, and but that doesn't mean you readily. You look for that kind of stuff and you get excited about throwing out a customer. Like when you hear the stories about Totonos, like the guy used to throw the customer out, the slightest
Yeah.
thing. Don't be like that. You don't want to be like that. That's not who you want to be.
I've heard a story that the soup Nazi was actually based off
That
of
was
that
my
guy.
father.
Yeah.
My father was a pizza Nazi. My father would throw you out of the slightest thing you did wrong. Like you cursed in front of a woman.
Right.
My father threw you out. You could not curse in my father's
I
place.
mean, there's
My dad
almost
did.
something
He
like
could curse.
noble about
Not
that.
in front of people. Not in front
Yeah.
of people. You know.
There's, I've heard you tell that story before. There's almost like something noble about like that kind of mentality.
Oh,
in a way, you know
my
what
father
I mean?
would never curse in public. Like, he was a gentleman like that.
I mean, I feel like if there was a place like that today, that like Eater or Thrillist or Munchies would pick that up right away and be like, oh, if you go to this place, and
that's
and then it would become like the most famous place ever. You know what I'm saying? Like the way things work today, which obviously is very different than back then. So, customer service, anything else? Did you do anything?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I started listening to what people liked and not what I liked. And I used to catch myself acting like my dad sometimes. I would say, ranch dressing. And I'd say, all right, shit, well, I'm acting like my father. Like just because I don't like ranch dressing, just because he didn't like garlic and it gave him agita, doesn't mean it's going to give everybody else agita, I got to stay away from that. Like we do a hot honey pizza, and I actually like the hot honey. But
I came around on the hot honey. I used to be really against it. I came around on it.
I like the hot honey. I just don't like our slice hot honey. But I'm going to tell you something. People love it.
People love it.
People really go crazy. And my staff loves it. And like I have relatives who love it. I don't. You know what I mean? And you got to get over that. It's not about you. And I've learned that. I've learned that it's not about like, okay, so Hawaiian pizza. Is Hawaiian pizza an abomination to the craft? Is it? No, it's not. But you know what? If somebody,
we're going to disagree on that one.
Check it out. Check it out. Okay. I use boar's head ham. Mm-hmm. I use fresh pineapple. Mm-hmm. Okay. They want Hawaiian pizza. I'm going to tell you something. You know how many people ask me for Hawaiian pizza? And you know what? I try to give them a great Hawaiian pizza. I'm still even looking to improve the Hawaiian slice. I even like encourage my staff. I'll say, I want you to come up with a sauce. I'll give you, I forget how much, I'll give you X amount of bucks.
Right.
We got to find a nice sauce for the Hawaiian pizza. I want like maybe a fruity little touch to it, and
sure.
And that's part of what I do. I mean, I ask
listen, I'm not the fucking overlord or god when it comes to pizza either. Just because I don't agree with something doesn't mean it's right. It's just like, but the only thing that I gotta say, this is the main thing when it comes to Hawaiian pizza, when it comes to like Buffalo Ranch and all these other things, way too often I see, and I don't think, I'm pretty sure in your particular case, this is not the case whatsoever. But I see underperforming places a lot of times that are looking to, they'll ask me, they'll be like, well, how do you do this? And what do I got to do? And blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and I go in the place and I look and I'm like, listen, you got this buffalo chicken, this ranch pizza, and this Hawaiian pizza. And I've been looking at your, I've been coming in here a week and I've been looking at what's going on in here. And you're selling, you're making half pies. You're not even making whole pies of these things. And you're selling 2 slices each during lunch. And by the time 5 o'clock rolls around,
it's stale.
There's still 2 slices. So this is what I want you to do. I know you keep telling me everybody wants it and blah, 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 blah. But let's go into your POS right now and let's see what the percentage of sales is of this.
Right.
And I don't care if it's fucking pepperoni. We got to get rid of the fat. Right. But if you're selling... If 10% of your sales is Hawaiian pizza and this and that, you
Hawaiian
keep
pizza
it.
Goes, yeah.
But if it's not,
then you get rid of it. No doubt.
You get rid of it.
No doubt.
Because the where it and where with a lot of spots it can hinder you is if you walk into a place like the kind of places I'm talking about. I mean, I've been to your place enough times, and your window looks amazing. You know what I mean? You got your upside downs that are great. Your plain slice is one of the best in the fucking city.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody, I probably say when people ask me, because that's probably the number one question I get from anyone.
Yeah.
Whether it's a guy in the industry, whether it's somebody that just finds out who the fuck I am and is like, oh, what's your favorite slice besides yours?
Right,
you know what I mean? I'm always
I like how you did that too, because that's
Pizza
so
Suprema.
real. Thank you.
Yeah, go there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's one of the greatest old school slices. But it's like it does hinder the ability today. Now you're an old school place. You're old
Yeah.
enough that you're over this. But if you're only like 10 years old or 15 years old and you're trying to get media and you're trying to get like somebody from Thrillist or New York Magazine or
come
Munchies
down, yeah.
to take your place seriously and write a serious thing, and then you have barbecue chicken pizza in the fucking window with no real history,
Yeah.
they're not. These are food critic guys. They're not going to take you seriously.
They're gonna chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah.
Right. You listen. You have to get creative. You have to, but at the same time, you also have to. You know, like I got most of my pies I really like.
Right.
Okay. I enjoy.
Well, listen, here,
I'd say
this
with
is
maybe
what it
like
comes
2
down
or
to.
3
It doesn't
slices.
matter what I think. It doesn't matter what anybody
Yeah.
else thinks. If you're selling enough pineapple pizzas or enough barbecue chicken pizzas
Right.
that it's profitable, and that if you were to take those away, you'd be taking money out of your pocket and bread out of your family's mouth, then you're a moron to take that away.
Okay, so you know it's funny. Like, what are you doing in your business? Like, one of the things my father always taught me was he goes, and he was right about this. Like, so about what he did wrong a lot. One of the things he did right was he would say, "You don't chase money." Mm-hmm. Okay, he says what you do is you. He was all about consistency. He was all about concentrating on the product, and I agree with that. I agree. Like, don't think about money. Money will come follow you. Think about your product. Think about how you can be better every day. All right. Think about what you can do to improve your product, your place. Not just the product, your place, your customer service. You know, maybe, you know, like it's really the question is how can you? How can you? You got to ask, how can I? How can I improve my product? How can I improve my staff interactions with customers? Right. Once you start asking, how can I? Because if you start with I can't, you know, then you can't. You know.
Right.
Because I know a lot of I can't kind of people.
Oh, I know. It's the number one type of person in our business.
And it's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's really terrible. So when you meet an I can't kind of guy, you know he can't. Because you are what you think and what you say, you know? So, you know, if you're an I can or how can I, you want to learn, like you're a how can I kind of guy, obviously. Yeah. I'm upstairs in your pizza experimentation lab up there. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, you know? But like, it's nice to be an how can I guy, you know? And you know what? Every day, it doesn't have to be like so intense either. It can be even casual. You know, it can be relaxed and say, how can I just sit back and say, how can I improve this? And how can I improve that? And little by little, you're going to have a great spot. And the money's going to flow. Like, the money will come in flowing in. Like, think about Dominic DeFora.
Yeah.
Okay? Dominic DeFora is like the example of an how can I kind of guy. Okay? Everybody was making like this very generic pizza. And then Dominic came up with this beautiful, you know, his own little creation.
Right.
You know, it was his own little thing. It's not even New York pizza. It's not.
It's
its
Dom's-
own-
it's Dom's pizza.
Sliced, and it's
Dom's
it was
slice.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And he comes out with the basil and the fiore di latte mozzarella, and you know, and it's, you know, like it's music. You know,
Yeah.
because there was a guy who said, "How can I? How can I?" This is what he thought about. So how can I improve this? How can I,
he turned
know?
himself. You know, the biggest misconception about the Farrahs is that he's been making that pie for 50
No,
years.
That pie evolved.
That pie's only.
I'm going to say it's probably like maybe 15, 20 years.
15 years old.
Yeah,
15
that's it.
years. So what happened was the story, as I understand it, because I you know worked with him for a while. I worked with his daughter at the place they
Maggie?
opened, Maggie, where
Yeah.
they opened in the East Village, and he had a partner named Farina, and they were, you know, all the old zips. They always take like a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks off, and they go back. They go to Italy in August or whatever in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
So he used to go every year, and the story.
partner.
I don't know if this is. I might have this story wrong a little bit because I'm repeating it.
Yeah, it's
but,
hearsay, yeah.
But the story I heard was, you know, from him and his daughter was that, you know, he had this partner Farina, and they went back to Italy one year, and then he said, "Dom, I'm not coming back. I'm staying here." Right. So now that whole neighborhood, right? It used to be a very Midwood was, you know, it was always a Jewish neighborhood, but it was Reformed Jews that didn't have
Right.
any problem with eating pizza.
Right.
And then you had Puerto Ricans, you had Italians, you had like
That's
a big
funny,
melting
yeah.
pot, Irish.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it had really turned into like a very strictly Orthodox neighborhood, and these people, they couldn't eat anything that wasn't kosher. So the pizzeria was doing bad.
yeah.
He
I didn't
came
know
back
this
from
story,
Italy,
yeah.
and he had, while he was in Italy, he was like eating buffalo mozzarella and all this stuff. And he's like, you know what? Why don't I put all this stuff on the pizza? And he got back and he started doing it.
Experimenting.
And it was, nobody was really messing with it. And within like a couple months after he started doing it, and if it wasn't for this, he probably would have went out of business. Village Voice wrote an article. And it fucking exploded after that. And
so
now he's got
funny.
people coming not only from all around New York, only from all around New Jersey and upstate and all the
Yeah,
surrounding areas
yeah.
and making like the kind of pilgrimages to this place. But
Right.
he's got people from Germany and Italy that are visiting New York,
absolutely.
going out to the middle of nowhere.
And Dominic I remember watching him make that pizza, okay, because I was practicing at the time, all right? And I was like, here's a guy who just thought out of the box. And necessity obviously brought that on,
And necessity brought that on, but what people missed, because I remember at least 5 places during that time, because he was charging $4 a slice, but slices were $1.75. Everybody.
No, he grew incrementally, though. He didn't just go crazy all of a sudden.
Yeah, but it was
He
always.
had to listen.
But
he
it
had
was
to charge
always
more.
crazy.
Yeah.
And that's all anybody talked about, even if it was $3.50. No,
But he was using Parmigiano Reggiano.
I know, but
Yeah.
you know how people are in New York. They're like, fuck you.
I got a slice of pizza.
Well, the thing about New York, I always say, like, to people like that are from other places, they're like, because they'll always say to me, guys from Cali and Midwest and wherever, they're like, well, you're in New York, of course you're doing good. And I'm like, I'm in the hardest market of the planet. You can open a slice anywhere outside the tri-state area. Like, we're excluded Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We're excluded Connecticut, Massachusetts,
Yeah, it
Rhode
ain't
Island.
so easy. No,
No,
I
but
know.
you can charge $6. They don't bat an eye.
Right.
Bro, they're like, thank you for bringing a slice. Because think about it. 2 slices and a soda, right? That's a meal,
Yeah.
right? Charge $5 a slice for a plate pizza. That's $10 plus a $2 soda, right? It's $12. You can't get a meal at McDonald's for less than $12. So they don't look at it with the same mentality that we do.
No.
Right?
You're right.
So
Yeah.
all these guys, they thought Dom was getting rich. Meanwhile, what they don't realize is like we even us using the best ingredients, we have a 30% food cost.
Right.
He had a 60% food cost, even
Right.
charging double.
Right.
So all these guys, they tried to
Say he was making all this
well,
money.
they tried, they thought he was making all this money. I
And
know
he
5
wasn't,
places
yeah.
that
I know.
they
I understand
they
that.
try to copy him, thinking like, oh, I'm going to take
And
this
they went
concept.
out of business.
All of them out of business in a year.
I know.
Because
'Cause it's
the one
so
thing,
expensive.
you know what they missed? Not only, I mean, you can argue about the love and the passion and the thing
Yeah.
of that. I mean, the guy invented his style and it's his and everybody knows it's his. But you can't replicate a 70-year-old Italian guy pulling pies out with his hands. The legend that went behind the guy. He's like this broken English. He won't let anybody touch a pizza but him. He's got the pair of scissors
arthritis.
doing it. He's pulling Sicilian pies with his bare
I
hand.
know.
Like,
Could you imagine?
even if you could get his pizza exact replica, even if you could make it 20% better,
Doesn't matter.
that's only 20% of the game.
Right.
The other 80% of the game is Dom DeMarco, and you're not
watching
gonna.
him, and people
yeah.
would stand there, lines, and nobody would utter a word, and he'd have this system that was not really a good system.
No, it was a
It was
terrible
the most
system.
inefficient system.
Well, that's the other thing that people don't realize. They saw the line out the door, right? But
It's
and
only
they
there
think,
because
they
he
think
had no employees.
Exactly.
And he only had
You
2
think-
ovens.
the people think he sold 500 pies
Right,
a day.
he's
The
got
guy,
like
I'd be
100 pies.
surprised if he was doing 60, 70
I
pies a day.
know,
I'd be
I'm
very
right.
surprised.
Me too.
Because he's doing it takes him
Right.
5 minutes to make a pie.
And he's grinding,
grinding the cheese. Like, bro, he had the block of grande like this on the cheese grater. And it's like, bro, just shred the fucking
Grate it. Yeah,
cheese.
the cheese is not going to
you gotta
make
do
it
on
any
the grater.
better.
Oh, but,
At least
but
he
I
thought.
guess it does. I don't know. Who knows?
I know.
But yeah. So what are some of the things like? I don't need you to give away your state secrets
about
or
what
anything.
makes our
but
pizza
yeah,
better,
what
do you
makes your
think?
pizza great?
Okay, well, I think what makes our pizza better is that we use a really great pecorino romano.
See, I was gonna mention that.
We
I
only
wanted
use
to
a
see.
few, and we use it abundantly.
Yes, I've seen
Okay.
that.
You know that.
I
right?
know
so
that.
we use.
But it's also like it's like a milder. It's a really great quality, but it's a younger, milder one because it's not overpowering.
No,
You
it's
use
sharp. I use
but-
a great sharp. I use a sharp. I use the sharp.
I'm trying to
I
think-
use a sharp.
Okay.
Pecorino.
but
It
it's
tastes mild because I'm going to tell you why.
because it's not overpowered. I remember I bought because in Brooklyn like everybody's like Locatelli.
Yeah,
You need
well,
to buy
this
the
is
Locatelli.
I'm going to tell you something,
Bro, I put Locatelli on my pizza one day. They were throwing the pizza at me. They thought the cheese was off. And I was like, I'm putting what you guys all
raving
you're
about,
raving
right.
But Locatelli, I think you don't even know what Locatelli tastes like.
Right.
You just look at the label and then you take it.
I had someone say to me, "This pizza sucks because it tastes gamey." Because they never had real pizza with
Right,
pecorino
yeah,
romano
yeah.
on top of it,
Yeah.
so it's gonna have that little flavor. It's
Okay.
gonna add that little zing.
Yeah.
To it. So if you're used to eating pizza without a nice sharp hard cheese pecorino, and you're just eating sauce and cheese on dough, sauce and mozzarella on dough, then when you taste my pizza, most people love it. He was the exception.
And you guys are bringing in giant fucking wheels of this shit from Italy, right?
Because this is what we do. Yeah, that's our pizza's different, primarily because of that.
And how long has that been going on? The whole time?
You want to know what's funny? Okay.
Yeah.
So my father, during the 60s, I tell you, he was having a lot of problems during the Myrtle Avenue location. He actually was like, well, maybe they don't appreciate my pizza. He got mad. He got mad at his customer base, the whole thing. He had like a lot of problems. And it was like, oh, well, I'm going to get rid of the pecorino romano.
Okay.
So one day he did.
Uh-huh.
Okay, he says, when it runs out, I'm not going to use it anymore. How do you like that? So a little boy said to him, Sal, called him over. He said, Sal, I love your pizza, but today, your pizza's off. At that moment, my father called the guy. He says, called up his wholesaler, and he ordered pecorino romano. And he said, and ever since then, he says, if a little boy could figure out that my pizza's off, then I'm always going to use the pecorino romano.
So this is like something that he's been passionate
he
since
tried,
the beginning.
He says, if a little boy, it was a little boy, could figure out that my pizza was off, then what is my, the customers who don't say anything, like, you know what I mean? Like, because a lot of customers, like, I've worked in pizzerias where the pizza was not that good, and most customers don't complain. They just leave, and they don't come back. Mm-hmm. So you gotta, gotta left it, because people are nice. They're not gonna say your
People
pizza.
are
generally nice.
Generally good people.
People aren't going to say your pizza
Yeah.
sucks. By the way, I'm never coming back.
Fucking assholes say that.
Right? They're
They're
just going to leave, and you're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
So we're kind of left to figure this out on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that makes our pizza better. Number one, I think what makes our pizza better as well is the way we cook it too. Mm-hmm. You can go into a pizzeria and you see a white pizza. I think that's key. Like you go in there, and I think the ratios also is what we don't use a lot of mozzarella. Not because we're cheap, because we're obviously using the best ingredients, and nobody's using pecorino, okay, which is extremely expensive, but because you put a lot of cheese on a pizza, it doesn't make it better. A lot of people think like when they show you that pizza with the spatula you're pulling and all that cheese pulling from the side, I look at that pizza and I know that's gross. That's not a good slice of pizza. That's not something I want to eat. You got to have a balanced pizza. So I think it's the balance. It's the ingredients. It's properly proportioning the pizza. It's having that crunch, and I've said this before. That pizza's got to, it's got to sing. It's got to speak to you. That pizza's got to be delicious. And you know what? I watch people eat their pizza, and I see how they eat it, and I know that it's good. You know what I mean? They're making love to it. They're having a good time. That's fun. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to see. You got to have the passion. You got to listen. Our pizza evolves. It was like Dom DeMarco. You know what I mean? Like we evolved into making this pizza. There was a lot of things that went into it, and the way we prepared our sauce and the way we our dough and how we cooked it and everything. And how we cooked it was always my father. My father was always big into the thinness and the cooking. Like my Uncle Vinny had a thicker crust round pie, and my dad was insistent that his regular pizza had to be thinner. And I think that's the way to go, if you ask me.
Bro, I want some of this pizza right now. So did so you started, let's back up real quick. So you take it over, you did a different thing. Now you have to you stop being a lawyer? Like, how does this work? How does this even happen?
It's not that easy. I mean, it's not like you ever stop being a lawyer. You're always a lawyer. It's like,
Right.
it's like ask someone to stop being a doctor.
But you don't practice anymore.
I do. I shouldn't say. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I handle certain matters. I don't really like talking about them because they're personal.
Sure.
But I really don't discuss this really with a lot of people, and I really, I'm like really.
Hey,
not
that's okay.
I'm
We don't
really
have
not
to talk about
comfortable
it.
with.
No, we don't have to really talk about it.
Yeah,
but I'm
cool.
saying, I mean, at some point, it sounds like even if you're doing some, you know what I'm saying, something here and there.
Well, look at you.
Transition from being a career lawyer.
But look at you. You've got how many pizzerias? Come on, talk to me.
I mean, I got 5.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, are you at 5 places at the same time?
No.
So there you go. You put on your pizza hat. You put on they're at different locations, right? So you're at pizzeria. You put on your pizzeria location A hat, right? Then you put your pizzeria location B hat on, and you put your pizzeria location C hat on. That's kind of what I do.
Okay.
It's not that much different. I put on my pizza hat. I put on my lawyer hat. I put on I have other stuff I'm doing too.
Oh, I didn't know.
So,
I was under the impression that you just
I mean, I do other stuff. I try. I mean, listen, I juggle. I have fun. I have family time as well. You know, you gotta do that.
100%.
But
most important thing was it? There was a guy, old man at
gotta make time
Deli.
for the kids.
He said, being rich in blood is better than being rich in money.
I agree with that.
And it really resonated.
You gotta have money too, though.
You gotta have money.
Yeah.
Listen, money is a tool.
Yeah.
It sucks to be completely broke.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But there's a point where, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you really need? Like, once
What's this about?
You got a house.
If you got one day left, are you going to say, I'm going to work to make money, or you're going to spend it with the kids?
Yeah.
You're going to spend it with you're going to play video games with your son or do whatever you love doing.
I think what he was trying to say was it's better to be rich in blood than to drive around a Mercedes. You know what I'm saying?
And have no... And have no family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I'm with that. 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you could drive around in a Civic
Yeah.
and be rich in family, and it's better than to be rich in
Absolutely.
money.
I'm with that 100%. No doubt.
So yeah. All right, man. I think we're good. This was amazing.
Thank
Bro,
you.
thank you so
I
much
had
for
such a
doing
great
this.
time.
Yeah, man. We're definitely going to do this again.
Absolutely.
And Joe Riggio, New York Pizza Suprema, they've definitely been awarded top 10 pizza in New York a bunch of times, and deservedly so.
Thank you.
And thank you so much
Thank
for doing
you.
this.
Thank
I
you.
really
Great
appreciate
seeing
it,
you.
brother. Yeah, man. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna go get some drinks, guys. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Take care.